Welcome to episode 22 of It's Server Time. We have the usuals. Yes, no guests once again, but who needs guests when we have as bright of minds as we do here? Starting off, of course, right to my right, we have Note, HLTV writer, was actually at Blast Fall Finals. Was that your first time in Copenhagen?
My first time in Europe at all.
Wow.
Yeah, anywhere overseas.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, we'll get into let's get actually, you know what? What was your favorite thing you did in Copenhagen non-CS related?
Dude, I barely got time to explore. I was really dumb and didn't book any extra days.
Oh no.
So we had like 3 hours or so that we went into Copenhagen to actually check out the city.
Oh wow, geez, that's
yeah.
rough. Okay.
Yeah, unlucky.
Okay, next to Note though, we have Josh Mix, formerly of some huge coaching projects. As he looks in like the Wolverine meme, though, I'm pretty sure one team that he worked with before, kind of the Extra Salt gang, they're doing pretty well. We're gonna talk about them later. But Mix, what's happening with you lately?
Well, currently I don't have a keyboard because I don't have enough USB slots. Without my thing that is now broken. So
okay, that just broke. So something just broke for him, and at least, well, we're happy to have you. We're happy to have you here. Yeah. And then, of course, we have Pronogo, the guy that, if you are a longtime viewer, he's been here on every podcast. You might not have seen him, but you may have heard him, and he's been the producer. He was originally the producer for Peaker's Advantage, actually.
Way back.
That's how we met, actually, just in an online interview. Well, actually, we'll do a little origin story here for people. So Davey and I were looking to reboot the Peaker's Advantage podcast, obviously keeping Semphis and bringing in myself, but we needed a producer because Davey and I are way too, I don't know, lazy? Maybe lazy. Yeah, we're way too lazy to put this together to make it actually, like, you know, good and look nice and set all this stuff up. So we interviewed a couple of people. We put out, I think, a tweet looking for somebody, and I think it was pretty obvious that Pronogo's just work ethic and passion, like, it really jumped out to us. Like, I feel like you were the first interview of a few, and it was like after that one we were like, do we even need to do the other interviews? Like, you were just, it was so obvious that you were just like gonna be better than everybody else, and you were, and you're still here because of that.
Shout out to whoever came after me and was like, I don't know anything, but I can learn, or something. I remember hearing about that afterwards. I don't know who that guy is, but shout out to him.
Yeah, shouts out to those guys, that guy. I forgot who they were, and let's not talk about them. We're not here to trash talk them. We're here to trash talk teams.
True.
We're here to trash talk players, and that's why we're going to get into the Blast Fall Finals results. First team, though, I want to talk about is Astralis. And so what are some opening thoughts you guys have about how this Astralis
Loads of trash
lineup?
I was impressed by them, honestly. I mean, outside of the whole Glaive opping over Lucky situation that was happening, I think the team just coming into this looked really good. Obviously, it's partially the fact that Config looked really sick this whole event. But as a whole, I think the team, with limited practice under their belts, they looked like they actually have something to show. And Glaive even addressed it in one of the post or the pre-match interviews on stage, is that he thought that they were doing well in this event just based off individual ability, and their tactical depth is missing still. So I think that they impressed me here, and I think they're just gonna get better, which is kind of sick. I'm very happy to see them kind of get back in the swing of it.
BlameF and Config's just such a sick duo. Like, that's just too sick. Like, they're always gonna be at least decent, I feel like, as long as they have those two. Long term, the team's kind of like a bit weird still. I don't see how it really pans out with like this kind of like mesh like roster with like Lucky and like Glade picking up the op and stuff. It feels like it kind of worked for like this event. You're like, wow, Lucky's doing so good, but it's like long term, it's like you know. But Config and BlameF, it's like the important things from this event, I think, are Astralis can come out looking pretty good. So for in terms of like their future, I think Config and BlameF look pretty great.
Yeah, I'll say BlameF and Config both looked really solid, particularly Config, who was like runner-up for MVP vote for, I would say, a lot of people. Obviously, Vitality hadn't superseded them and gotten all the way to the final and broken NaVi's nuke streak. Like, a lot of people would have been talking about Config's return as like one of the number one storylines of the whole event, I think. And even still, he's probably still in that running, right? So you definitely have to throw some praise at him and at just the complexity duo in general. My biggest concern with this roster was how well those new pieces would gel, and that seems to be fine, but you can obviously see that Lucky took a backseat. Now he's on rifles. Maybe he'll gel in that role as well. Maybe he'll surprise everybody and adapt to that, considering he couldn't really adapt his op game to the tier 1 of the world, which is one of the things that we saw going into this event. A big question mark around him is how soon are they going to replace him with somebody like Farlig or whatever. But if Glaive is going to take the reins, I don't know how long-term that works. It does seem a little suspect. For me, the biggest issue of Astralis at this event was 100% the crowd. So I don't know if we want to even talk about them for too long, but all I'm going to say is if I can walk up to any sort of testing agency inside Copenhagen and get a whole crowd to tell me, start cheering wildly every time I hover my pencil over the correct answer, then I think I'm going to go pretty well. I'm just saying my performance might be skewed is all I'm saying. So I would say crowd played a big part. Obviously, they were the sixth man for Astralis, and that's something that you can say happens at every event, but to the degree that it seemed to morph the engagements in a lot of these feels a little bit suspicious, and is one reason why I think, if Astralis then go to the next event and don't do nearly as well, I won't be that surprised. Alongside, obviously, the fact that it's no longer the honeymoon event and there's a lot of other issues.
Okay. I agree that the crowd helped them out. I think that you can't even really pose the argument that they couldn't hear them or anything like that, because Apex was literally, he knew what the crowd was basically doing in certain rounds. Like he seriously directly responded to them when they were trying to call out his flank before, and so that's always going to help him out. I think that it's not like the crowd was. I'll say this: the crowd was not great in terms of their sportsmanship. I think that it's okay to boo people, and I think that it's okay to show your passion. Like there's just a line where that has to be drawn in terms of competitive integrity, which I think the crowd was knowingly trying to cross consistently. And that's something where it's tough to police that because there's so many people there, and like you can't throw everybody out. But like there's gotta be something, because Counter-Strike is a game of information, and it's always going to involve people needing to know, like wanting to know things that they don't, that are on their screen. And if the crowd is revealing that, then it's just like, okay, it's not even like the same game, like there's a difference. The fun difference between LAN and online is the game mechanics are a little better, and the pressure's on because the crowd's there, and the emotions are high and intense. But it's not really fun to hear about a game that could have been a round could have been changed. The outcome of it changes because the crowd is doing stuff knowingly to sabotage one team and prop up another.
Yeah, well, for me, the problem with the crowd was that I get cheering for the home team. That's like very normal, I think, and that's really not the problem, and I can understand that. It was the two main issues were the fact that they were doing it outside of the game, where they were booing like other teams. So, for example, in interviews when some players went up, they were getting booed, which is that makes no sense. Like
I still like.
I don't know. I don't think that's. I think booing them while they're in a match or something, understandable. But that's like there's a point where it crosses like a line of disrespect for me, and I think that that's a little bit too much.
I personally think that disrespect is fucking great. Like I love that shit.
I like it if you're doing it to someone, like if there's an actual narrative reason for it. Like for example, with Apex sort of fighting back at the crowd, then obviously they're gonna boo him as like as a back and forth, and that's a cool dynamic. That's kind of fun.
Or anytime Cadian gets booed, literally anytime.
But totally they were doing it. They were doing it unprompted and early on, which to me is just like not as cool.
Well, the famous example is that one with Shocks being interviewed by Machine, and then everybody starts booing at him after he's like, "You won the first major." It's like, what a weird thing to boo. Like what?
Yeah. And secondly, the other part was when they were. And this happens with, I think, crowds at different arenas, obviously, but ESL, for example, will warn them and throw out people if they notice. Problem here is that there's so many people that it's hard to really narrow it down. But for example, like there's a new crown that I remember where there was like a wall smoke down outside, and there's a very small gap. I'm surprised none of the Astralis players could see it, but there is like 3 players crossing behind the smoke, and people in the crowd started yelling out in Danish to shoot.
Yeah.
at the players, and like stuff like that is just not cool. Like that's where you're crossing like competitive integrity lines, and it's just that is not okay.
Yeah, I'll like change my stance from what I said on Twitter just a little bit. That it's not that I am okay with people being like with people cheating, but I will say the booing, like Mick said, is kind of fun because there's a home crowd, and I think that it's okay to boo people that are against that. Like I think that happens in sporting events everywhere, and but I also want to like keep it in line with what you're saying, that it's kind of a narrative thing where it's like, come on, if it's Cadian, like, and everything that just happened, like if Hunden were on that crowd, I hope people are like honestly just throwing cups of beer at him or something like that. Like I'd be like, yeah, that's fine with me. Not that I'm
like full 90s wrestling with the entire crowd like tossing shit into the ring.
Someone throws a chair. No.
Yeah. Not even that, yeah.
Yeah, no, I don't. No, obviously don't like cause injury to people, but I'm not instigating violence. But I'm also saying that there's some reasons where it's cool and some where it's not. And I think booing, like, so basically, like, for example, when Vitality come on the stage and if it's against Astralis, if the crowd's like boo, I think that's okay. I think that's kind of okay. But there's like a certain line of respect where it's like, for an example, like an interview or whatever, it's kind of like, yo, like, can we just hear the interview? You know, that's
Yep.
But that's just like, that's a little nitpicky. I'll say this to bring it back to the game a little bit, about Astralis. I watched Lucky's demos actually after some of these because I wanted to see, because I think the general sentiment from how Lucky played at the event was like, okay, he did his job. I'd say he did pretty poorly given the resources that they gave him. Actually, he was like really baity, and on CT side too, I said this on another pod already, but like Lucky is not really like a good CT rifler. Like he's like, he makes some errors with just kind of like mechanics. Like, okay, I'll point out a couple specific ones. On Overpass, for example, he wanted to like throw a nade into Monster, and he threw the nade, and before his gun was even out, he swung into the angle and just died immediately. And things like that is like, yo, like what? Why are you swinging before your gun is out, kind of thing, you know? And he just got shot in the face because they're in the tunnel, and he swung into the tunnel. And then on Nuke, every time Heroic exec'd on him on A, he died without getting a single kill. And you know, like I think I'm one of the first people that was like, yo, this Kyojin guy on Nuke is really like a problem. Like he's really bad. I'm gonna say like Lucky is really also like, he's not any better. He's definitely not any better than Kyojin is. Kyojin actually, to me, the way he defended execs at this event looked better than Lucky did. So I think when you look closely, you'll see there's some flaws.
With Lucky, it's just kind of like they put him like, he's kind of doing like the same shit, like almost like the same player he was opping, but just like in like a less important role. And so like people think he looks a lot better now. That type of thing. I don't know. So that's kind of what it feels like to me. Like I don't like like long term Astralis isn't gonna be able to like be top 3 with like Lucky rifling.
No,
like that's not like, either he's gonna have to like come back to be an opper and either be comfortable with it this time, or he's just gonna have to find something else. But also, because I didn't get to really say much about the crowd, I will say I wanted to ask like how much like crowd control did Blast like try to do? No, if you were there and if you noticed.
Say again, sir?
Like how much crowd control did like they try to do in terms of like telling people not to do that like before matches or maps and stuff like?
I was mostly either in the press room or in like the press box area, but I didn't see too much. Like I don't know how much crowd control they did because I didn't actually like walk
was the
around
press
and
room
see it
behind the
happening.
stage like it usually is?
Yes.
Like yeah, okay. So you just couldn't see anything basically.
I would be kind of surprised if they did any crowd control, because they obviously Blast themselves are also based in Denmark, right? So
well, it's not so much that.
So one point, one of the only things that I know that they did for sure is that after the first stage match, I think the first Astralis stage match, but it could be a different. Essentially, there's that. There's like the fan area on the inside of the stage, like that triangle that was there.
The super fan area, right?
Yeah, exactly. And they just
that area
added
looks
in,
sick to be.
It was really sick. Yeah, it was a good setup. But they added basically just the, I don't know what they're called, but like the little tape barriers basically to stop people from going up directly to the front of the stage from where the seats were.
So what I was gonna say
no,
is that like
no like volume control as far as I know.
it doesn't necessarily be like volume controls, but like I'm just saying like before matches, before each map, putting reminders to the crowd like not to give off information or stuff, I think could be helpful, because I don't even think most of the time, like a lot of the time, I don't think it's malicious. Like the crowd, like you could say it is to a point, but also to a point, it's like you're cheering for your team and you see them like crossing, like you're kind of just naturally going shoot, like even if like you're at home, like you're kind of just like you're not really noticing, you're just like willing on what you want to happen, because it's like they can get a kill. So it's like I don't think it's even malicious, but like if you're not even like reminding people about that, like see much information game and things like that, I think it'll just happen a lot more.
I don't think anyone outside of the talent did like whatever was on broadcast in terms of what was said is all that was said, I think.
Yeah, I think literally just like before each map, like a 20-second thing with like a PA something like on like the screen, like a reminder to the crowd not to like give off like important info or something, I think would help a lot. But
I think that's a good idea. It's a really good idea.
I wonder how much it would have changed things, because I feel like there couldn't have been any control in that sense because of how frequent the disruptions were. Obviously, there's the famous clip of Kerrigan trying to hunt down, I think it's Zipix, who's hiding behind.
It's not gonna be
Box
perfect.
Secret.
And like anytime with a crowd, like anytime like someone's like coming up behind someone, like that's like irremovable. Like people are just naturally
I mean, even in
the
I think it was even in the final on Mirage, Electronic hiding underneath Dark on A, and only gets one kill despite everybody being there, because the crowd's like, oh, and he's like, wait, this isn't an online event, I can't do this anymore, and just gets banged out immediately. Like that's unfortunate for him, but that's the kind of stuff that you have to act on way faster because of the fact that there is that like crowd noise disruption.
You can't have like the best of both worlds at all times.
Yeah. I'll say that it's okay for like the big reactions and stuff like that, but I think it was a little bit more. I'll go against that mix. I think it was a little bit malicious. Like they were definitely trying.
No, I'm saying like some of them definitely are malicious, but like I think a lot of people in the crowd aren't like being malicious about it when they're like doing it. I think a lot of them are just like instinctively saying whatever.
It's probably like the case of, a couple rotten apples, and then everybody just kind of joins in on some of those reactions and chants and things like that. And that's, so it's kind of like groupthink, kind of like Reddit. Yeah.
For events, I just think like a simple thing to implement would just literally be like a 15-second reminder before each map. It's just like, just like plays on the screen, like reminder, don't do whatever, like yada yada yada, and then
I mean, they also had the stage host Ericon or whatever his name is. Like I don't actually know his name, but it's some name that's vaguely similar to that. He's been in some of the Blast events before in that very arena, I believe, way back in like maybe 2018. So
he did like a Portugal one, and he like killed it or Lisbon.
I think he's. I mean, I wish I did know his name, because I'm not throwing shade at the guy. I just don't know some unpronounceable stuff. But it's
Archon or something.
Whatever it is, Greek god type looking motherfucker. He's obviously got his attitude, and he seemed to be doing his stuff. Like you could hear him hyping the crowd up even during the analyst segments. And I mean, there was even one bizarre thing. That's actually something maybe we could talk about when we get to the production, is like how that worked out, because I have some interesting thoughts that I think most people have been very receptive to the show that Blast put on. I've got some little things that I'd like to talk about. But the like he definitely could have been issuing warnings to Mix's point, right? He could have been the one who was like, hey guys, you're getting a little too rowdy. Maybe even spoken in their native tongue if necessary, because a lot of those people are from like native to Denmark. So that could have been done. It definitely feels like they did less than they really ought to have, considering the sheer number of times that happened, and also times that it made like top of Reddit, or was tweeted out and signal boosted by members of the community that weren't at the tournament, and then even getting to the point where the commentators and analysts have to say something. Like something has had to have gone broken down at some point in this event, if that's really what happened. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Let's. I'll. I don't know. Does anybody else have anything to say negative in that sense
about the crowd? I think that's it.
Yeah. I'll say this though, on the positive side, like the Blast put together a sick program. Like those, dude, the lights and the sounds that they use to entry teams, and like the stage raising so that they all like they're just there with their arms crossed and stuff like that. That looked awesome. Like I really wish I were there to see that.
When I go back and watch PGL major intros.
I don't even know. Dude, they were so non-memorable. I couldn't even tell you what happened on the player intros of PGL. Like, do you
No, you
remember?
just hear.
I remember there was no crowd noise. Yeah, there was no crowd noise.
Yeah,
I'm pretty sure there was like barely music. Like it was.
Yeah. Oh man, yeah.
Dude, it was incredible being in the arena during like both the opening ceremony and the walk-ins.
Yeah,
because the way they designed it gave enough time for like each team to have like a build up to it as well.
Yes.
So like the rise and then the actual like moment they're on stage under lights before the background locks in and they can walk off. It's so well done. It just sucks that there wasn't like there wasn't as much of a cheer for all the other teams outside Astralis as it happened. It's not that it didn't happen at all, but like for example, for Astralis, it's because before the teams come on, like the entire arena goes blackout, right? Like there's not a single light on anywhere. And the second that happened for Astralis, like before there's anything else on, the second the stage blacks out, a roar just starts erupting. And then as the lights come on, like it just builds and builds for the next 20 seconds. It's amazing, but yeah, it was a really cool experience being there.
Shit on the crowd as much as you want. All I'm saying is that if you're like a CS fan, like going to an event in Denmark with Astralis there, it's definitely should be on your bucket list because it's an atmosphere unlike any other team in CS and like unlike any other place. It's crazy.
Yeah, I really enjoyed the walk-ins. My one complaint about them is that it felt like a very repetitive after a certain amount of time where you're just hearing the same music and seeing the same sort of light show. I know that's built into the theme and like the whole show is that they have the lights go off at certain times in sync with the music. What would have been really like an easy way that I could see to build on this system that they have, and maybe they'll do this the next time that they do an event of a similar stature, is if you had personalized walk-in music selected by the team, and even, you know, something PGL did at the major that I thought was really cool is that they gave each player an individual walkout in the grand final. So they had 10, you know, individual walkouts, which ended up taking a while. They probably could have spaced it out differently, so it didn't take that long, but it still was a nice little show of like, listen, you made it to the major final. Like, you guys are legit players. Let's do a 1-by-1 walkout. And then obviously when Simple comes out is when they give the best crowd noise reaction. So there's a lot of that. You could have done something to that degree. I guess it wouldn't have synced up with their lifting the whole team synchronously at the same time, but there could have been, I just feel like there could have been something more to set each individual walkout apart from the other ones, especially for the final. I was almost expecting them to have something like I don't know, some sort of song,
fireworks.
Something different. The other thing that is in a similar vein, repetitive, sort of grew a little bit too repetitive for me, was the drone thing that they have in the opening. Like their opening ceremony was the same for each hype match, I think it was, where the drone like smacks into the screen and then restarts. And that's like, I mean, interesting, really interesting for the first run, but it takes so long, you know? Still, overall, I think the whole thing was really good, but I would have definitely liked to see more customization or more like, I was expecting there to be like a different one for each stage almost, you know what I mean?
Yeah, that would have been kind of sick. Yeah. True. So, because they did run it, I think, like twice per day, basically.
Yeah,
like once at the start and then once before the last match of the day or whatever.
Yeah, the first and second match, right?
First and third match.
First and last.
Oh, first and third match. Okay, that's okay. All right. Okay. All right. Let's bring it back then. I think that's probably good. I think that's a fair coverage of the event itself. I mean, unless Note, you have any other kind of like little details that you caught when you were in the arena.
Not really. I think it was just really well designed and well put on by Blast. I really enjoyed being there in person. Was like highly recommend if you can.
Nice. Hopefully, so I know that Blast for the World Finals are considering their options for where they host it. So I mean, that's going to be something to look forward to. I would love if it's some kind of like really Counter-Strike heavy area that probably isn't Denmark. If they have to run it in Denmark again, you know, that's fine, but it'd be cool if they could reach out or, you know, make it somewhere else, like Cologne-ish setting, or like, I don't know.
It's just in 2 weeks, so I hope they got something in mind.
I don't know. I don't know.
As far as I know, it's not going to be behind. It's not going to be with the crowd. With the way COVID is going up.
Damn.
Well, are you talking about Winter or are you talking about Cologne?
World.
They're both not going to be with the crowd, right? Just because COVID cases are going up. I'm pretty sure.
I don't think Winter was ever supposed to be a LAN with
it wasn't, and I highly doubt that at this point, 2 weeks out, no tickets being announced, no location, and COVID going up, that Blast is also going to hold theirs on LAN, or with a crowd at least.
Just gonna be studio again.
Unlikely.
Dang.
That is a big letdown after this one. I mean, I don't know.
It's a shitty way to end the year for sure. Yeah.
Okay, that's kind of sobering. Let's get back. Let's get back into some of the team talk then. One team I think that was, well, they were a huge surprise for me to make the finals was Vitality.
Sure.
That was because for anybody that's not keeping up in the scene, I don't know who that could be, but if you aren't, like it's already been heavily rumored and indicated that Magisk and Dupree are going to be joining the team instead of for Kyojin and Shox. They're also going to be replacing their coach. They're going to be getting Zonic, who is of course the Astralis coach, and yet they still did very well, and they even had a very competitive series. I would say like competitive series in the sense that they took a map that nobody thought they should take off of NaVi. So what do you guys make of Vitality right now? Like, did you guys expect them to do this well at the event?
No, not even close. I expected Vitality to sort of be one of those teams that they were. I mean, the roster is competitive with everybody that's not named NaVi, pretty much, and I was really interested in seeing how the new look Astralis looked. Obviously, I didn't rate Liquid at all, and I figured they would just crash and burn. They were another team that surprised, despite the fact that they're a dead team walking. We'll get to them eventually, I'm sure. But the Vitality roster, to deliver to this point and to get grand finals, I wouldn't have pegged them for grand finals for sure. I definitely wouldn't have pegged them to break NaVi's nuke streak, and I certainly wouldn't have expected NaVi's nuke streak would end in that sort of, like, I would say deflating fashion. I know it's a grand finals, and I know it made a series, a 3-mapper, that everybody thought was just going to be a 2-0 in favor of NaVi. But I honestly felt kind of disappointed in the NaVi nuke loss in the first place. I was hoping that it would be this nail biter, 16-14 or overtime loss. Like, it would have been, for the obvious corollary is if Nico hits the Deagle shot and they go to a third map after G2 breaks the streak at the major, that would have been the moment where, okay, the narrative has built up and it feels almost deserved. Whereas this one, it felt like NaVi just capitulated and was like, yeah, who cares about that streak or whatever. They didn't abandon their own game plan nearly fast enough and start to maybe pull out those tricks that Blade was talking about, or they did, and it was just, it just wasn't anything special, and Vitality somehow handled it anyway. Either way, Vitality were on one. You can't fault them for, a lackluster performance from NaVi in that particular map, and especially after losing to NaVi so convincingly earlier in the event to come back, and that was very impressive. So I was pretty impressed, and it's a really nice send-off for that roster, considering it's the last time they're going to play together, probably.
They've got 2 more events for this year, because the contracts for Dupree and Magisk they end December 31st.
Yes.
So we're gonna see more of this Vitality, and that makes me super hopeful for the other 2 events that they might even cause some more upsets, because they know they have to play with it for a little bit longer.
Okay,
that's why they've still been practicing too. So like they could actually make a mark.
Yeah. Well, yeah, everybody at the event was saying that they this is the last time, but I guess they were meaning in the context of it might be the last time for an arena or something.
Yeah,
exactly.
Let's talk about Vitality. I was going to say that it kind of makes sense when you look at their run, where they beat Liquid and then beat Astralis twice after kind of getting shit on by NaVi. I kind of what would have happened if Vitality had to play Heroic, maybe, for example.
Would have loved that. Yeah.
I feel like I'm not sure how that Astralis Heroic matchup was influenced by I don't know what the Heroics players mental states going into that were, because it's gotta kind of suck to play Astralis in your country and everyone you're literally getting booed by
your home populace. And that was after a very competitive series against Liquid where they almost dropped it there too, right? So they've had to shake off a 3-map series and go straight in, which to Vitality's credit they did and still defeated NaVi on Nuke. But still, that's that's a tough call for Heroic specifically.
Yeah. Just looking at it, I don't know, it kind of makes sense for Vitality. Obviously played pretty well. And yeah, I mean, it's just what dead teams can do, right? It's just, especially I think Vitality seemed to have it's different for Vitality and Liquid, right? Because Liquid split is very much comprised of different players just clashing and obviously just not getting along with each other, and just it's kind of falling apart from the players, whereas Vitality was more of the org's decision, the org's deciding, okay, we're gonna do this, we're gonna bring these guys in. So it's kind of easier for Vitality in that way to be all right, guys, let's just, it's the last lineup, let's go out, do whatever. Probably benefits them a bit more than it benefited Liquid. So yeah.
Okay, I want to talk about the NaVi loss to Vitality on Nuke, actually, because I have a theory on this, and Mix, you're gonna like this of everybody, because it's because I read Bill Walsh's book that you recommended that I came up with this idea. Where basically, and for people that don't know, Bill Walsh was the head coach of the 49ers in the 80s. He won 3 Super Bowls with them.
Yeah.
They went from
Joe Montana.
Yeah, Joe Montana and Jerry Rice, and they were one of the worst teams in the league to dynasty level. So it was like based off of him being the coach. And so one of the things that he talked about in his book is that when you play American football, it's like, play after play after play. Something that Bill Walsh came up with, and I'm proposing. I know I'm like the first person that's proposing this, but those papers that NaVi are getting every game, like they're literally coming up to the stage with a piece of paper. I think that NaVi is scripting their T sides. I think that Blade is actually coming up with round by round what we're gonna do, regardless.
I think most likely he probably has scripted like up to at least the first gun round, because I do that as well. Sometimes I'd script like the second gun round as well.
Yeah.
But past that, I doubt he's doing it past that, because past that you're not really sure how the game is panning out, so you can't really script it. But I think up to like the second gun round, you can like script your rounds and like what you're gonna do.
Yeah. So I'm putting it out there that I think. And I think this is the reason that Bit is looking like the most comfortable, best rookie ever, because I think that the way Navi is practicing is with the script in mind that Blade is coming up with, so that it's never, because when you watch Bit's POV, like when you like, he's like never doing things that just seem like, oh, he has to like think on his feet or make too many decisions, or it's just like, it just seems kind of like clear cut what he's supposed to do, and then he just kind of does it. He's never out of his element. He's always just going for these like sometimes aggressive plays, admittedly, but like ones that seem like they're contained within the system. And even though Navi is doing something else on the map, it seems like the thing is, like Bit's doing something else. Like I don't know, they can do two things at once on T sides, and no other team can really do that as well as they do. And that's a personnel issue, or that's like a personnel like. That's a benefit of having their personnel, because everybody's so good. But I think the reason that they are so good is because Blade is putting out there exactly what's supposed to happen on both sides of the map at the same time. So I will say that the reason that they lost to Vitality, because in Simple's MVP interview, he said like our game plan wasn't good. You watch it back, and the first 10 rounds are like all outside attempts. Like they keep trying to fight Zywoo and Apex, and it's just like. That was just a bad game plan, because why would you not go to Kyojin? And so Kyojin in that game, by the way, took one opening duel, and it was against Boom. It was like they tried on an eco round to go towards A, so it's like that just felt like a faulty game plan, because you would want to abuse Kyojin if anything, and Navi for some reason 10 rounds straight didn't really want to do that.
Weird. I'd have to go back and look at it, like in terms of like directly what you said, but like that'd be weird if like Navi like fell into that trap. Maybe they were just got a little too caught up in like something they wanted to do, because like even then you could at least like just like threaten him, Kyojin, like just pressure him a little bit, make like Zywoo like a bit scared of that, so you can like draw Zywoo away. Like, but yeah, if they were like just going directly outside and just that feels weird. I'd have to go back and watch it to see exactly, but yeah.
Yeah, I just imagine that the next event we get a detailed zoom in onto these pieces of paper that Mauisnake's talking about. It's just lorem ipsum and like 10 paragraphs of nonsense line that they can't read.
Just nothing.
All for show. All for show. I think it's an interesting theory, just because it does fit with that's something that I would logically, if somebody told me Blade did that in a past team or is doing that or whatever, I'd be like, oh yeah, totally makes sense. Fits in with his sort of coaching style, at least the older one, where he had the idea of a perfect Counter-Strike. And obviously that's something that even Simple has praised in the past. Like he thinks that it's a really cool idea and he wants to try to implement it. My problem is that like, this isn't even an example of where the game plan like goes wrong because Vitality are doing dead team things and playing individually in ways that you wouldn't expect them to. Like, I think there's a kernel of truth into that sort of estimation. But the problem is that they were like even if you expected, like if you were anti-stratting Vitality, you would do what you just said, Mauisnake. You would say like, all right, let's try to abuse Kyojin because he's just not, he's not up to snuff. He's obviously going to just capitulate if we can do that. Instead, Navi go for the outside takes and get shut down a lot. And okay, maybe they're not used to that, but like I guess to some extent I can see where that would come apart. But like surely you would have contingencies built in. You would like write in like, okay, if this doesn't work, we can try to go towards ramp, or we can try to go towards upper, or we can send a heavier presence outside and maybe try to do that. It felt like all the stuff that they did just didn't, like, not only did it not work, but they didn't ever try to adapt, which points to in your favor about the whole scripting thing. But surely you also script in exit strategies, right? Like.
Yeah, so I think that it's probably like a combination of things, but what I have to assume with Blade's idea for wanting to go outside is like you can't really just hammer Kyojin over and over again, because what Vitality's going to do is Apex is going to just play a little closer towards mini. Shox will play more in the site to help out Kyojin, and the thing is that Kyojin and Shox actually ran a handful of good setups actually throughout this event in some of their other games. I think against Astralis actually they ran like some pretty good setups, and they actually they beat Astralis on Nuke Vitality. And I remember like Kyojin and Shox had like some nice like little like 1-2s that, and like aggressive ways to play, like some more intuitive and like thoughtful little setups that I like, that you probably want to draw him away. Like, you know, it's like conditioning, right? If you can show that you can take outside away from Vitality, then it strengthens your next A hit, because they're gonna think that, well, our outside's weak. So, but it's just that plan A never worked for Navi, and so they couldn't go to what was supposed to be their ace in the hole, which was like, okay, draw Shox away from Kyojin and then hit Kyojin over and over and over again, because that threat was never there, because they never unlocked outside too.
Sure, yeah.
Yeah, it's also not just that they thought that, or they had the wrong game plan. Simple, just that he thinks the game plan was wrong. Like, straight up, that they had the wrong approach to the game as it is. So, like, to me, that makes a lot of sense, because like Simple even was going and taking those duels versus Ewu outside, and it just wasn't working. So like, if he's the one saying that he disagrees, but he's still doing it, that tells me it wasn't really his decision. Per se.
Yeah, I mean, it's always like going to be 2020 hindsight, but now the game plan should probably be like, go inside first, make sure Shox has to play with Kyojin, make sure Apex also thinks he has to help out A, and then try to go like unlock outside from A, as opposed to vice versa. So I mean, that's something where it'd be really cool to actually know what's on those pieces of paper. Like, honestly, someone needs to get one, because like, I think it's going to tell so much, and I almost feel like once people know this, I think other teams are going to have a good idea at how to anti-strat Navi, because like in Bill Walsh's book, basically, like he basically would plan these rounds, like plan these plays, and then, but he knew that, okay, if someone starts to anti-strat me, I have like an anti-strat to the anti-strat. Like, he would have at least another layer of it. And I don't think Navi is there, because if they were there, they wouldn't have lost 11 rounds on their T side of Nuke.
Yep.
Also, calm down there, Hundan. Someone needs to get a hold of those papers.
Well, I remember at EPL finals in 2018 in Denmark, I was like just going to like the player area, and I saw like the Astralis table like empty, and Zonic had like left like his notebook there. I was like, I could just take that right now. No one would ever know. Jeez. I could unlock all the secrets.
But it'd be in Danish, so you'd have to get someone else. You'd have to learn Danish.
Is this like the foreign Swedish translator, where he's like, translate these Fnatic comms? They must be speaking some insane amount of. No, they're just saying one long. One long.
I'm gonna go A. Yeah, Fnatic old Fnatic comms are like the biggest letdown. They're like, hey, I'm gonna go vent and fuck this guy up, and the other guy's like, okay, I'll come with you.
I'll open it thinking I'm like unlocking like Astralis like legendary anti-strats, and then it'll literally just be like where like each player plays on the other team. And that's it.
That's literally how my analyst notes look for when I prep for events. Just write down everyone's spots and stuff.
I have a point to make about Navi on as far as the leadership role and tactics stuff. Like, this is one of the question marks over Boomich for me, is that he doesn't really seem to be like a primary IGL in the same sense that other teams have a core IGL, right? He actually, this is a rare example of a Counter-Strike team that obviously they're #1 in the world right now. They don't seem to be challenged very frequently. To me, this is like a weird example where the coach is still the IGL, and these pieces of paper are essentially extensions of his IGLing. I'm kind of surprised that no event has pushed back, or Valve themselves haven't said, actually, you can't bring this paper out because this grips the game and gives you all the calling.
I agree with that. I think Boomich has actually done a pretty solid job of IGLing.
Yeah, but how do we know what he's responsible for? That's what I'm
pre-plan every mid-round adoption, though.
No. The mid-rounds on T-side have looked pretty solid.
A lot of the mid-rounds, a lot of their mid-rounds have looked very good, so I don't think that it's really fair to think
still
that
has
it's all
to be able
scripted.
to call himself, but I do think he's been given like a how-to IGL guide by Blade.
Yes, exactly.
I also don't even think it's just that. Ever. I don't even think it's just that. Like, there's a potential for Blade to have also programmed in mid rounds that could have worked.
I was just about to say, maybe Blade goes, walks over to Simple's left, you're ending A, walks over to Simple's right, you're ending B. Tap on the left shoulder is strat A, you know?
No, Boomich is just looking down at the notepad like, okay, there's one squeaky and we're down 4v5. That means I go to section A, page 5, or whatever.
The flowcharts. The flowcharts. That's something where real coaches and obviously chess players and stuff like really have those. You know, chess players, it's all about memorizing the whole flowchart. So
yeah, just like certain. I'd probably say it's less like if like you're in a 4v5, like do this exact specific thing. But I'm sure Boom should be giving a guy like, you know, if we're in a 4v5, this is like the general like idea of what we should be doing. Like, if that makes sense.
So what would get me really excited is a team like VP or Furia, just like an Art or Yakinder, just flying at NaVi in some way that they might not expect, or using a timing or something like that. Like trying to get them off kilter as much as humanly possible would be a lot of fun, because I feel like I'll say that I think some of the like Boomich's IGLing and mid rounding here at the fall finals was pretty good, and the thing is that I don't really know if any of these teams in terms of their style are so unique and different that it's like you couldn't have game planned really well around it. And like, I guess to an extent, to counter myself, like sure, you can know that Art or Yakinder is going to run at you, but like losing the first duel and then having a backup plan is pretty hard. Whereas like Navi is such a good 5v4 team, but like, you know, every team is not like, it's tough to do 4v5s, you know, Navi included.
Yeah. I was gonna say also what someone said in the chat about like Navi like taking 10 days after each event to like go over everything again.
Someone said
I think
that.
is
dude, he's a member of broadcast, bro. You can call him up.
I'm actually scared to say his name because I don't know how to say it.
It's just Yumi. It's Yumi.
Okay. It's one of those things. Yeah, it's one of those things where I'm like scared to say because I feel like it has to be something different.
Yeah, I know.
But what Yumi said, like obviously he has to take 7 to 10 days where you can reset, and that's kind of like similar to like what I would much prefer if I'm like coaching a team. So that like you can go through like, especially when you actually have like a structure and a system that makes sense. So you can go through and you be like, okay, I need to add something to like this timing, because obviously it's going to be too obvious when teams watch the demos back, or like I need to add like a different variation of like something we do based on like our A default nades or just shit like that. Like adding like all these like different like little paths that you can use to like mess with the other team, you know, they'll go through, they'll watch your demos before the next event, and then all of a sudden you're just changing up these like little timings on them and like little numbers and stuff. Like I think it's really good, like getting like that practice, being able to like actually do it, I think is a big part of like what helps keep Navi on top and like fresh for each event.
Yeah.
What would you guys chalk it up to? The Boomich not picking Nuke against Heroic?
I think it's a smart move because, you know, it's like a mind game within a mind game, because everybody would expect the default mind game is our Nuke streak is so good. We're so good on Nuke. We're going to pick Nuke. And then like Cadian obviously like had that reaction where he was like, are you throwing or trolling or whatever he said? People can't make up their mind about what he actually said. But I just imagine that being like the light leaving his eyes as all of that Nuke prep falls out the window.
Yeah, it's quite literally.
He did say on Twitter he was joking. So to be fair, like they very well could have just prepped for both.
Yeah, maybe, but I just feel like it's unlikely that they don't. I would
have thought they would have like hardcore prep for Nuke though.
No,
I feel like they would have went all out on it.
I'm sure they had prep for Overpass still, but Cadian definitely went hard on like Nuke prep. To like, I'm sure, especially like with himself. Maybe they had like an analyst or something like doing Overpass notes or something. But like Cadian definitely was like fully expecting Nuke and was like fully ready for Nuke. And then when you just hear like ban Nuke and you're playing Overpass, like when you are so sure about a veto, and then like they just do something unexpected, it's like you're like, wait, what?
What the fuck?
Yeah, and it's literally like you're now playing like a completely different team than what you prepared for. Like it throws you off so much.
So in that same interview with Blade, I asked him about that pick, like about picking Overpass over Nuke for the decider, and he literally just said that it's what people would expect. Like people would expect us to pick Nuke, so we didn't want to like pick, and that it was also one of Heroic's best maps, so it didn't make sense to pick into it. But B, they'd also created new strategies or something on it, and if they'd picked it, they would have had to show those strategies to be able to beat Heroic. and so he didn't want to show those strategies yet. Now, if those were the same strategies they used in the Vitality match, maybe they should have showed them, but who knows?
I mean, if they... Okay, like, I kind of saw a handful of the strats. Like, it was a mix of, like, basically starting by trying to get outside control, and then, like, having some contingency in the form of lobby presence and stuff sometimes. And it's just, like, I think that would have worked better against Heroic than Vitality, because you're not fighting Zywoo outside. Like, that's so...
I didn't really notice, but low-key, like... Also, I was just going over... Low-key, NaVi literally smashed every team on Overpass at the major, so...
Yeah.
That's not too surprising. 16-4,
Yeah, yeah.
16-9, 16-8.
That's... In fact, they should have... Could they have played it against Vitality? Wait, how'd that veto go? Did they...
Didn't Vitality ban it? I don't remember.
Maybe instead of picking Nuke against Vitality, they should have picked Vertigo. Just saying. They want to be a 7-map team. That's something they claimed, so... Get on it. Get on it, Blade! Write that shit down.
That would just be the ultimate upgrade. Like, if you could do that... I almost feel like, in a way, though... I don't know what you guys think about this, but having a 7-map pool is kind of like low-key a gimmick and trying to increase variance sometimes. It's just like saying your 6 are not completely up to snuff, and it's kind of like... Sometimes I think teams will use it, like old Kerrigan teams will use the 7-map pool, just because, like... they might have a couple weak spots on their map pool, and if you kind of know you have 2 bad maps, like, you might want to just make it a 7-map pool and just kind of pretend you can do that, like, that you can do the 7-map pool
I'd
stuff.
say, like, I generally prefer, like 7-map pool. Like, most teams can't actually do, like, because a lot of times there's just a map your team's just, like, naturally just doesn't click on. That happens. But it's, like, it's still good to at least be able, like, to have, like, something on it and be able to, like, play it and, like, scrim it every now and then. Just so that, like, whenever you play another team that has, like, that permaban, like, the same permaban as you, or if, like, they're just, like, dog shit on the map, you don't have to, like, ban it. Just gives you, like, such a big veto advantage. Because it's, like, you could, like, risk it even if you don't play it, but then, like, you're less likely to do it and, like, feel comfortable with it, because you're like, well, we literally don't have anything. So it's, like, if they pick it, we could just be kind of fucked. So if you at least have, like, a default or something, like, just like the bare minimum,
right?
And
like a couple strats for each side, kind of thing.
Call like a 7-map pool. But I generally prefer to have like one map that I'm just banning out most of the time. I just think it makes the most sense.
Well, it makes the most sense if you can't reach a base level of competence against other tier 1 teams. What I find really interesting about the veto, the potentiality is they don't ban Vertigo and they sort of like gamble float it. And then if another team picks it into them, they just maybe unlock a 2-0 instantly because they have their own map pick. And if they've prepped on Vertigo, they can smash them on that too. So like, if you can see where that's going, it's not even just that they would pick it. It's that if the other team wastes, quote unquote, a map pick on Vertigo, thinking we're a good Vertigo team, they've never played Vertigo, let's do it. Like not realizing that maybe that is the trap and they have floated Vertigo for a reason. Like that could be where like you could see a serious crazy matchup, and that's exactly what Astralis did against Liquid back in the 2019 major. I forget Starladder major, right? So that was in the quarterfinals.
NaVi saves that for like a major final.
Yeah, please, dude. If they,
I couldn't handle that veto. Like if
NaVi don't ban Vertigo and you're like on the other end going, what? We ban Vertigo. Quick, keep it banned. Don't let them pick it.
You'd probably be really sketched out. I think there's a good chance a lot of teams wouldn't pick it still.
Sure.
Unless they just ban whatever they were gonna pick. But
I mean, even if the other team doesn't pick it, like you're giving yourself an advantage regardless.
Yes, because you get a different ban.
Yeah, exactly. Simple was talking about it in like the media day or like pre-interview roundtable thing where he said that like he would love to have a 7-map pool, but you have to be so stable on the other 6 first to even think about introducing a permaban. But he said that they could do it.
Well, he himself is very stable on all of those other maps. So,
yes, he's literally top-rated player on all of them. So.
I just need him to be top-rated on Vertigo too. That's all I need. Can we do that?
I know that would be awesome.
I keep my teams from playing Vertigo to keep their happiness levels up.
That's a good idea. I don't think most people dislike playing it that much, but it's about going over it is so tedious, honestly.
Watching it is also pretty miserable. So
on that note, this event didn't have a single Ancient or Vertigo.
Nope, none of them.
Thank God.
Not a single map was Ancient or Vertigo.
I think I replied to Sponge's tweet, something like that, and it was like, nope, dude, not a single person unhappy. Like, I didn't see any comments or any death segments where they're like, well, Yeah, I don't think I didn't. Well, I did. Okay, I think I caught a lot of the death segments, and I didn't hear anybody saying like, "Oh, we still don't have ancient." It's like, nope, no one's upset about no. Oh, we don't still have vertigo. No, we're cool with this, guys. We're cool with it. I mean, I think it's a toss up for a lot of people whether what map they like the least. But I think that Dust 2, Ancient, and Vertigo are probably the big three right now.
Yeah, I think I may have voiced this very controversial opinion in the last episode of It's Server Time, but I'll re-up it here. Do you guys still think Inferno is a good map in this meta?
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah.
Even after all the CT saves, even after all the CT utility being thrown around.
You say that, but the number of saves in the arena were few and far between, surprisingly. Like
that is true, but apparently we're going right back to online events, so
I guess. Yeah. I mean, I remember seeing like a total of 4 save rounds through the whole stage event.
Yeah,
so
if that's the case, that's pretty nice. But my biggest issue with the map historically throughout the online era has been the saves, and then with the CT-sided meta introduction ahead of the major, it was obviously really bad that they were getting. It was so CT-sided that like it became an expectation, even at the major, that you would get like 10, 11, at least 9 rounds on the CT side, and I guess that's like sort of echoes of old Nuke. But for me, that just feels really bad as a viewer, where like. I'm cheering on a team because they got their 5th round on the T side. Like, holy shit, they're winning the half. Like, this is kind of goofy. You know what I mean?
I think it's more because a lot of teams have just, like, they've lost their depth on the T side right now.
Yeah.
Some because of roster changes, others because they've just fallen off on certain elements. Like, Kadian was telling me about, like, yes, obviously. But Kadian was talking even about how their T overpass is a little bit lackluster right now. And then obviously you have like Vitality making changes, Liquid making changes, Astralis, new roster. So like a lot of these teams have like already stuff is a little bit more CT sided with the gun changes to the A1S. But these teams are also not in a position where their strat book can be as deep as it was before. So I think that we'll see it come back over time. It's just going to take another month, 2 months even.
Do you think it's also cyclical because like everybody knows that it's CT-sided meta, so the teams just put less stock in trying to get T-side advantages? Because this happened for a while on Nuke before it became like a more even split map for a brief period of time. I'm thinking like last year, 2 years ago. Nuke was obviously very heavily CT-sided for a long time, and then teams started winning T-halves. Like I'm thinking even Astralis back in the day were winning T-halves. Stuff like that is one of those situations where you almost need somebody to say, hey, you can win T-halves. You can do this stuff on T and like pave the way for everybody else. Whereas if people are lost in the system, they're like, oh yeah, CT-sided meta. They almost just don't try. I don't know if that's a valid thing at the top level, but it feels like it.
I think with Nuke, with Nuke back when Astralis kind of figured it out, that was kind of like post revamp of Nuke. And at first the map was so complex that like there was that rafter outside, like they changed the secret position, or they changed not the position but kind of like how that whole like beneath secret area worked, and like how it's just one vent now. They changed so many aspects of it that it took people a while. And I think when a map first comes out, I think there's a debate whether it's going to be inherently T or CT sided. It just kind of depends on the shape of it and stuff like that. But it kind of took people a while to figure out there's a lot of options on Nuke for Ts. Like people didn't know what they all were at first. Like the vent drop, for example, that Astralis really did pioneer in this iteration of the map. But let's see. Okay, are there any other teams that jump out for you guys here at the event? Like some of the teams that finished near the bottom, I'm kind of more interested in. I'll actually just start. I'll just start. We didn't see too much of Big, but I've seen a decent amount of them recently, and I just think that right now my biggest complaint with Big moving forward is that it's just Surson. Actually, I don't think Surson is playing.
I'm gonna be honest. I didn't even know Big was at this event. So
yeah,
they
went out pretty freaking fast. They sped run their way out of the studio. They didn't even make it to the arena. So
no, everybody made it to the arena.
Yeah.
Oh really? Wait, they had an arena.
The elimination matches were guaranteed.
FaZe defeated them and then immediately lost afterwards. So.
Okay. Wow. All right, that's my bad on not watching the actual like
FaZe versus Big, the forgotten match.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, Big are like the biggest casualty for Blast. It's like you go down the list, like even FaZe in an arena, you're like, oh yeah, that's gonna be awesome, right? And then it's Big. It's like, Jesus Christ, why are you guys here? How did you guys get here? Get them out.
You know, they stole G2's spot, actually. It was the, like...
Oh, dude, imagine if G2 had been at this event.
I know, it would have been... It actually would have been
the third
sick,
dead
right?
team that is apparently not making roster moves. XD, wink. XD.
You know, that game, actually, that big one against G2, I think G2 were actually on the CT side of Inferno and up 15-10, and they choked the whole thing into OT. But that was Blast fall groups. Either way, yeah, my main point about Big is that Surson needs to reinvent his playbook. I've seen him go for the same effing peaks for like a year and a half now. Like, dude, that's just not okay. Like, you need to revamp. You need to like watch some damn demos. Like, just like take some inspiration from like Shiro, or like just go to a different region. You know, just watch a demo from
just play
from
differently
CIS.
for like 3 demos on each map, and then
he
can go back to it, and then everyone will think it's different Searson, and then you're good.
Dude, yeah, like I think, okay, one stat that I'm looking at now a lot for oppers when I'm like thinking about them and just how good they are is how the time that they spend flash per round. And like Surson was the most flash per round opper at this event. And you know what's on the flip side is like to talk about like Glave's longevity as an opper in the space. He was like one of the least flash because people just don't know what he's going to do. So that's always like the thing with a lot of oppers. Like I don't know if I'd put Woxic in this category, but people kind of like that, you know, like where it's like they join a roster, they like are incredibly good for like maybe five-ish months, and it's like super super hot for them, and then people kind of figure them out. They kind of learn their tendencies, and it's really tough to stay on top of that. Like you kind of see a lot of oppers just like be really good for the short stretches when they get inserted to teams, like Poison also.
Yeah, I was just about to say.
And then people learn what they're about, and once you understand an opper's play style, it's easier to counter them than learning like a rifler's play style, because there's just just being an opper in Premier before, like there were peaks that I liked, and then it was like my first season of Premier, like nobody knew what I was doing, and then the second season people were kind of like they were ready for things that I was going to throw at them. So that's speaking from experience and just kind of like looking at the trajectory of Surson. It's really bad right now. Like he needs to do a lot better.
I mentioned this on Thorin's podcast as well, but I just don't think, like, I don't see, even if Surson was to improve in performance, I just don't see Big competing for like a tournament winning spot, especially an event like this. It's just not going to happen. So I would rather see like Tabson move to a better team at this point, like move to a team where his IGL fragging impact can actually like help elevate them further.
Oh, FaZe. Think FaZe. Think about FaZe for Tabson for Olaf. Oh man, dude, wow. Save Tabson? Wow, no one's saying that, huh?
Save Tabson, please. Actually,
he can speak English, right? Get him out.
Yes, he speaks English. Dude, they spoke English for like 2 years on the roster.
Oh yeah, because of the Smooya era, right?
Or Smooya and Xantares.
Yeah, exactly.
I thought the whole conceit of Xantares moving to Big, I thought, was that he's good friends with QotW, and there's like that mutual German-Turkish thing going on.
Yeah,
I thought he could speak German. That's why I was initially like, oh, this is a really cool move. And then it turns out English.
He was attempting to learn it in the beginning of the roster, they said, and he was taking courses, and then I think because Xantares is not a good student.
I used to.
I don't know where it went. I don't know where that went.
I used to actually really like Big roster, and then this roster is just like so uninspiring. It's just like Tabson, and then there's an uninspiring opper, and then there's just like 3 like role players, pretty much. Like Keto hasn't really played very well.
Yep.
I would say that Gade actually was kind of surprising.
Tabson's still.
Oh yeah, the IGL.
Gade's a little better than I thought he would be.
Not like he's not like raising the roof, but he's like, oh, there's something there, you know.
Let's say this. If it were Gade for Esatag, I think they might be better. Like I think NIP might be better. Or if it's Gade for who else? Like if it's Gade for a lot of players right now, I actually like Gade's stock has improved for me since he joined Big. I'll say that.
Well, Gade isn't bad. I wouldn't say he's the problem, but it's just that like he's also like not a solution.
He can't.
Just doesn't have the firepower to compete against a lot of these.
When you already have Keto and Tizian, it's like adding a Gade is like it's a bit redundant.
Tizian has been brutally bad for them, actually. Yeah. Like he was when in mid like early 2020, he was really really serviceable support. Yeah. Like I would never.
He used to be decent, and now he's just
he used to be decent. Yeah,
he's just kind of dead weight at the moment.
He's super dead weight, dude. He's almost the lowest rated person in like nearly every.
It's like I get he's your role player, but like your role player can't be averaging 0.89 rating. Like that's just not good enough.
That's just too bad. That's Kyojin levels of stats, of output. So you
like at the end of the day, it's Counter-Strike, and you need to like shoot the people and kill them to like win the game. You know what I mean? So it's like you need a bit more people that can do that.
I'm glad you also mentioned NIP though, because they were very disappointing this
Oh,
tournament.
agreed.
Dude.
Like extremely.
Yeah, I would actually. Yeah,
I would argue they're the most disappointing team at the event.
I would say actually Heroic was the most disappointing team at this event.
That's a good point because they're not a new roster either. So
yes, exactly.
Well, I feel like that Heroic I can debate just because of the intangibles surrounding the whole like villains in your home country somehow. Like obviously this insane crowd who's obviously always cheering for Astralis. They take him kind of close, but then like stuff goes wild. That's like a 50-50 game for me, considering how good the Astralis additions have been. I also we didn't touch on this with the Astralis talk. I think Xyp9x is like escaped everybody's limelight because he didn't do too poorly at this event, but he's definitely not going to be like I'll put it on the record. I don't believe he will be reviving his career. I think he got the bag, kind of similar to Glaive, although Glaive impressed a little bit with the ops sometimes. But anyway, that's almost neither here nor there. I think the NIP story is big. Like it's a huge shock that they didn't make it this far. I mean, especially coming off of the major where like they had a horrible performance against G2 in their quarterfinals. That's the only time they were in their quote-unquote home crowd as a team, obviously before Esotag came in, where you didn't even expect them to make it past Copenhagen Flames of all teams. Like, come on, bro. You guys definitely should have lost that Ancient match, it feels like. Just looking at it again, like it's amazing that LNZ was able to do something for once in his whole stint with his team. So, good job.
I think NIP is about to come to like the realization that they have much bigger issues than simply getting a good fifth.
Yes.
Yeah. Like Plofsky isn't playing good enough. I'd say Rez isn't playing good enough for like what Rez is supposed to be.
Yeah, he's supposed to be the second star, right?
So yeah, dude, their T-sides have been atrocious.
I keep bringing it up, dude. Their T-sides are terrible.
Like you can argue Device isn't playing as well, but he's still playing like by far the best on the team, and I still think you surround him with like a better team. I still think he's just going to be Device.
We've also never seen. Did you guys see the James Banks interview with him, where James Banks is trying to get it? It's like squeezing blood from a stone. The guy's so depressed. Yeah, Device was so depressed after NIP got eliminated.
Like, so here's the thing, though. Device, the last time there was an event in the Royal Arena like this was Copenhagen 2017, I think.
Mm-hmm.
And that was when he was not on Astralis, or he. I think he couldn't make it to the event or something. I don't remember what the exact circumstances were.
Yes, he was out sick, and they replaced him with Dennis from Fnatic at the time, I believe, right? Is that the same event I'm thinking
I don't know if it was Dennis, but he definitely like didn't make it to that event for sure. And so he finally gets a chance to play on that stage again, and they get banged out immediately.
Bad,
so like, of course he's gonna be heartbroken because he can't even play on the home stage here.
I know it's the home stage effect. It felt different. This one felt like, what the fuck have I done? I'm second guessing every decision I've ever made. I'm not even with the person that I was supposed to be with to make this move to Stockholm in the first place, which is why I left Astralis for this organization. Like, so much shit has gone wrong with my life. You could see it all over his face. Maybe I'm reading into it, but it just felt
Imagine moving for a girl.
Yeah, true. Like, imagine changing any part of your life for a femoid. What the fuck? Get out of here.
SMH.
I'm tapping out of this conversation.
Just kidding. I was kidding.
When did we get the incel talk?
R/incel.
I was joking. I was joking.
So out. I'm so out.
Okay. I'll say this. I want to say about NIP.
Yes.
About NIP. So yeah, their T-sides are terrible. They had one of the worst at the major, and at this event, not the worst, but pretty bad. I think it was second worst to Big, but like that's kind of like the worst.
That is the worst, yeah.
The thing, so I watched back like the entire like T-side they played against Overpass pretty recently, and they only got 3 rounds. Okay, so actually, on Mirage and Overpass, the second and third map versus Liquid that they both lost, they got a total of 3 rounds. They got none on Mirage on T side, and on Overpass they got 3, 2 of which were the pistol, and the following round where Liquid eco'd. And the third round they won was because Device literally killed like 4 people with an AK as he just ran up through bathrooms. Like he literally just headshotted everybody. Like Hampus threw one flash. Device had no one behind him. Like no one was in position to trade or anything like that. And he just killed 3 people. It was like, okay.
Do you ever have those plays where you just decide, all right, I'm done giving a fuck. Like I'm holding W. Like towards the end of a half where you're just losing a lot and you just kill everyone.
The thing is, like, sure, there was nobody, like, there wasn't nobody to trade him because it was Device's fault. This is just the NIP system in air quotes, because there's never any system in any of their rounds. Like, dude, they didn't even run. I went through like their entire overpass. I don't think they ran a single like exec. They just like they 2-1-2 default on overpass, by the way, which is like not even like a lot of teams do 3-1-1s, 1-1-3s. Like they'll send like a majority to one side of the map so that they can get control as a unit, and then they can either exec or like fake that space, like go take other map control later. Like they do 2-1-2s all the time. Like it's just literally like, Plopsky, try to go up connector by yourself. See what you can do, Rez, go out towards A by yourself. See what happens a little bit. And then it's just like, then sometimes when they die, when like 2 people die, then Plopsky, then Hampus, who actually just kind of baits more than I thought he did on overpass. I watched like some of his POV. He just like watched Plopsky die in connector. Stewie was like vulnerable for the trade, and Hampus is like, nah, I'm not taking that fight. I'm gonna back up. I'm gonna go away from this.
Dude,
and
you
then he just left.
Yeah, you should have entered, man. You should have gotten the kill. What the hell?
And then Esatag is like solo walking out Monster at the same time because there's just no strat. There's just no strat in place. They're just doing whatever they feel like. But then again, I have to give Esatag a little bit of credit. He knows some Swedish, but he doesn't know that much. So maybe when Hampus said wait outside Monster, he misinterpreted that, and that's why he walked through Monster and died by himself. So there's a lot going on.
This sounds like how like a CIS team plays T side, but like without winning any of the rounds.
without killing anybody.
Without any mechanical skill, yeah.
It doesn't work if you're not actually killing people when you walk out everywhere.
Yeah.
Maybe Hampus will watch this and he'll write that down, Josh.
Going back to the original point of being like disappointed in their performance here, like the reason I'm more disappointed than just solely what their results show is that when I interviewed Hampus, it just seems like they have no actual solution planned as to how to resolve their T-side issues. Like this is the impression I got from this conversation, is that first of all, yes, they have language issues with Esatag already in terms of like he does speak Swedish, but when they are in very chaotic situations in rounds, just like when Stewie
like Bentet.
Like Bentet, or when Stewie and Tarek joined MIBR and the Brazilians were trying to talk in English. Like once comms get loud, they get hectic, and once they have to talk very quickly, there's a disconnect, and some of those words can easily be misinterpreted or just not even heard, right? Because you're trying to focus both on translating this in your brain, trying to understand what's happening in the game, and making a play at the same time. And so the problem with that is that when I asked him about this, he basically said that they didn't. The reason that some of their T-sides had been so lackluster is that they had now added Esatag as basically to be a secondary caller of sorts. So the pair of issues with this is his Swedish isn't perfect in chaotic situations. Okay, first of all, second of all, your secondary caller cannot repair your non-existent T-sides because there's nothing to repair.
Yeah.
Like there's no. It just seems like there's no real playbook or depth of playbook enough for a secondary caller to be able to do anything to bring you up to a world beater level. And Device isn't going to be happy being a team who's like 5th and best in the world, obviously.
I don't even think they make it that high, to be honest, with like this.
Well, yeah,
system,
but just as a peak, even like he won't be happy with that, and that's the most I can see them like consistently trying to be like that level in a tournament. It just won't happen if you don't have somebody who can take over the calling entirely.
Mm-hmm. Esatag is like really smart, like one of the smartest players I've ever played with. He's perfect for like a secondary calling situation. But definitely not like with like what NIP is experiencing at the moment, where it's like they have to figure out their entire system and why they literally can't buy a single T-side round. Like he's really good, especially at like small things. Like sometimes he was actually too good at it. Like he would play with like Floppy. He would play sites with like Floppy, and like Floppy like do something a little bit wrong, and I would have like stood here and then like took 15 steps to the right before throwing my flash and then playing this at like a 30-degree angle. So he's just like overcomplicate like everything, and Floppy would just feel like kind of like an idiot because Esatag is just like super smart and just came from Astralis and stuff. But like he like over explains things sometimes to like a bad degree, I think. So it's like that's not gonna like fix your entire T side, just like making everything more complicated. That might even just make it worse.
Right.
Yeah, so thanks giving that feedback, and then in NA you have like you should have just shot him in the head before he shot you. Like you know you.
That's the tens call. I just missed.
Yeah,
exactly.
They wouldn't say that. They'd
Actually,
just be like,
though, I just missed.
They'd just be like, dude, if I just hit that shot, like,
yes, actually.
Yeah. Okay.
Unironically true. That's the worst part.
I have hope. I have some hope for NIP. No. What am I talking about? I don't have hope. I have hope. I have hope that some of the pieces should do better in the future, but I don't really. I
used to have hope. I thought Rez would like take a step up and like hopefully he would become like the true star player he's supposed to be, and he's not, which is bad when he needs to be. But it's like Plopsky isn't playing as well as I thought he could. Like they're just these pieces all like this team had potential, I think, but it's like literally the only piece that's like even coming somewhat close to like their potential or like playing well is Device, and like literally everyone else is just kind of failing.
Yeah, I think that right now it's up to Hampus, Threat, and I guess Mahone to like get in a little circle and say like we need to change the style that we play T sides. Like something needs to be different because you just can't default every round with Hampus doing his little shindig and then just like then the round's over if he doesn't kill people. So I mean I'll just say I hope they do something. Do I believe in Hampus as an IGL right now? No, but as like if Esatag learns Swedish better and then can finally give when he's not like having to worry about speaking a second language, along with the fact that the team is going so badly and he can just focus on one problem, one issue, isolate it a little bit, then maybe he'll give a little bit more in terms of like his expected playbook. Like I'm surprised Device is so okay with them playing like this, but I guess it's because they won that IEM fall event and he probably thought that things were going pretty well, but in reality it's like that event is just like it's kind of just different than this or the major or anything for that matter. So
also they still have Linus.
But I'll give Nip some like benefit of the doubt. And it's like they did go out and get Astralis. I mean, Astralis. They did go out and get Device this year, which is a big move to make and commit to. So I do assume if this continues, they aren't just gonna like sit around and just let Hampus call these T sides for like another 2 years.
Yeah, I think they just need like. Do you guys think the obvious move here is just to replace Hampus? I mean, I guess the question is who you replace him with, but that seems like a better move to get rid of him so that you can install a different system or make changes or whatever. There's obviously that like honeymoon period where some
it really depends on who you can get, because even if you replace like Plopsky or Rez with like a better rifler, maybe someone that's like more aggressive and is able to like open things up a bit more, that could also be really good.
Tabson.
I am waiting for NIP to go fully international.
Team.
Yeah.
So I wouldn't. So like this is where I put a lot of stock into what ZTR was doing with the roster, where it's like he wasn't actually performing that well as an individual. But I went back through their like Flashpoint run when he was playing on the team, and their T side was like I think it was 50-something% win rate. And then you watch the other events after it's Linus instead, and it's like, sure, your CT side got maybe a little better, like a little boost, but your T side just fell off a cliff. Yeah, in fact, Flashpoint 3 with ZTR, they had a 55% win rate on the T side, and they came in second place. And then you look at the last like 3 events that they played, and it's like 30% on T side. And I don't think that's really like level of competition changing. I think that's just like you actually had an IGL who knew how to help you in ZTR and he was comfortable in Swedish. And so like that secondary voice, like I just don't underrate it at all, because when I do watch the Academy League games too, like ZTR knows how to mid-round better than probably any IGL there. So like that's where it's like very obvious to me that he was giving a lot of input to them when he was on the roster, even though he's a freaking teenager.
I mean, Nopal makes a good, like, this obviously will not happen, but he's saying plus MSL, now it's a Danish-speaking team. But, like, obviously this won't happen because I feel like NIP want to stay Swedish, but that genuinely would be a good move for them. Like, if you
ignore language issues, potentially, because I don't know how many of the Swedish players speak Danish. But yeah, I mean, somebody like him
just speak English.
Yeah, true. Somebody like him could totally go in and like MSL could totally set up a system that these players would work within. He's done it so many times with worse pieces than what this lineup has. So
Yeah, exactly. So the problem is there's just outside of ZTR, obviously, I just don't know any Swedish in-game leader who could come in and help improve this team, and that already is not going to be enough of an improvement for them.
Rec 5 million does make a good point in that MSL is already a star opper, so.
Oh, that's true. That's true.
Yo, okay.
Is that a throwback to when Josh? Oh no, Josh, you picked Montu over ZywOo, didn't you? There was some old episode of In Server Time.
No, he picked he said Montu to be different than
everybody else
or something like that. Yeah, no,
yeah,
that's
like
the MSL thing was when he won that MVP at that Stockholm event, even though he had a 1.06 rating. Like, just the phoniest MVP ever. I have to put that out there. That is the worst MVP in the history of HLTV MVPs. I have never seen anyone win MVP with a 1.06 HLTV 2.0 rating. Like, never again will that happen. That was a caught up in the moment that he killed device 3 times and the observer caught it every time.
Dude, his best games came against Astralis, and that is
that's all it was. Dude, like, AZ had like a 1.2, Valde had like a 1.18. Like, it's literally like such a travesty that AZ didn't win an MVP for that performance, because he freaking carried them until the grand finals when it was like, okay MSL shot the op really well here like a couple times.
You can't deny that it's so much better if MSL having it.
It is better for the storyline, sure, but then if you look at the stats, because now he's just dining out on that, I'm sure, for like, yeah, you remember that time I out-upped Device with my 1.06 rating?
Yeah, that was, oh god. I actually think I need to make a YouTube video about how fraudulent that MVP was, but I don't want to be that toxic, because I've said some things negatively about MSL in the past. Even I said it once on a cast, like, and then like Tensky just like ats me and just like is like, it's like, why are casters so mean or something like that. And it was my line or something, and I was like, oh my god, oh sure, it's a CS Summit, but fine, whatever, dude, like, go off. Okay. What about the other teams? How about this? Let's kind of talk about, we're going to talk about roster stuff a little bit. And so what better time to talk about Liquid than now? So let's talk about their performance and kind of the future of this team. You know, they won against NIP, which was, I'd say, like that was a huge victory for them, and they actually played Heroic really close. Yes. Like they made that game really competitive. So I'll say, like, I like, as soon as it was like an 8-7 half on Inferno on map 3 against Heroic, I kind of felt like this is probably over, because I don't really trust Liquid's T sides on Inferno. But I'll say that, you know, there was a chance they won. I think they won the pistol. I think they won a couple rounds after that. I think they were up 9-8 actually at one point on Inferno against Heroic. And but NAF just signed a big extension, and we know that Elige is one of the, like, just basically like keystone players for this roster. So they have 2 guys moving forward. What would you guys like to see for the other 3 to round this out? Would you want to keep anybody on the roster right now as it stands? Like, even with the rumors that are out there, would you want to keep anybody else here?
Not really, to be honest.
I was the proponent of Elige out. Get him out, but he's obviously staying, it seems like, so. Mm-hmm. You know,
I wouldn't keep Grim just because I don't think it makes sense with the roles. But Elige's still there.
They're just the same player. They want to be the same player.
Yeah, so I just don't think it's really worth it. But yeah,
do we know what the other?
I'm here for the Grim Revenge arc when they take on Liquid in the future.
Yeah. Do it. Give it.
That should be good. I mean, Stewie could take him with him. I mean, all the bad mouthing Stewie's done to Grim, inadvertently, presumably, where he's like, yeah, Grim's just not doing what we want him to do very well. And
he didn't really badmouth him. That's what's so weird about
there were several instances. There were several instances, not just the most recent time, where he does talk, because like he was on Twitter recently and trying to explain, like, I could see how it was misinterpreted or whatever. But.
Well, no, like Stewie's point is that Grim literally came into the wrong team at the wrong time.
Yeah,
like you're putting a star player into like positions that he doesn't play on a team. On a team that is not going to be able to give you the time to adjust into those positions because they're trying to compete at a top level. And then he called him a slow learner, which was like the only point of criticism that was actually like there.
Well, no, there was some post game. There was some post game event of the last event.
Even then, Grim talked about it. And he's like, I don't feel like I'm a slow learner. It's just the fact that like he even talked to Grim about it. He said in a broadcast interview that he talked to Stewie about it, and there was and he basically said that it was just like Stewie went a little hard, and Stewie apologized afterward.
There's like a golden NA timeline here, right? because like Liquid didn't really want Grim. They just kind of picked him up because there's like no one else for them to pick up, and they needed a replacement, right? But at the same time, on C9, I'm pretty sure like we were going for Grim at the same time because we wanted to do like a 6-man roster and like add Grim. Who knows how that pans out after the words, right? But we were going for Grim, and I feel like everyone would have just been a lot happier long term if like Grim just went to like C9 with us. You know, a team that like he would have been comfortable with. Liquid got someone that like they actually wanted, and then like at that point, you know, maybe the Colossus never happens. That'd be great. Maybe, you know, like maybe Liquid actually has a roster where they're not just putting in some like weird player into all their role player positions. Like
a player.
They should just let that happen.
But if the Colossus doesn't happen, how will I get my NFT mushrooms? How?
That's true.
Jesus Christ. The non-fungible fungi are not promoting this podcast, by the way. But that's
I didn't even remember the name. That's why I had to say mushrooms. But yeah.
Actually, you know what? This is never gonna happen. But my ideal Liquid moving forward would just be basically get just get Floppy, get oSee, and I know like as much as this hurts Extra Salt fans, just tear that lineup apart, because Floppy can play all the spots Grim played, but he's actually like good at them.
He actually likes them.
Yeah, he actually likes those spots.
Like I remember one time we were talking on the team, right? We were switching around some roles. This is like the old South African 99, and like we asked Floppy like, would you be open to like playing like it was on Dust 2. We asked him if he'd be open to playing B-Lurk instead of like Long Lurk or something, and he was like, yeah, it's easy. Like I just sit there and then I kill one as they cross and I get 100 ADR.
Yeah, exactly. Floppy is always okay with doing all the worst spots, like they're
just easy to him. He's just like these spots are so easy. Like
they're just so like the choices in a lot of in bitch roll spots are very binary. It's either just like sit there and then like stall. It's either do you stall or do you fight. Like that's kind of it for every bitch spot. There's like barely ever a third decision you even have to make. The third decision is like, oh, my teammates died across the map, I'll push.
There's too many people that play bitch spots and only delay like all the time.
Yeah, that's why I hated watching Taco, dude.
Yeah.
That's why.
Whereas like Floppy would just be like, dude, I'm just gonna fucking swing these guys. I'm just gonna fight them. Like,
yeah, you gotta keep them honest.
Yeah, it's good to have someone that's like, if they're trying to set up for their exec, this like random like B anchor that they think is like bad, just randomly starts swinging and pushing on them. It's like that's super annoying to play against.
Yeah, I think that's probably when actually Big were good at the game. Like Keto and Xantares would actually do that. You know, they would just test people. They'd be like, let's just fight into that a little bit more. And yeah. But but my ideal lineup would just have those two. And then I guess Nitro, just cause of like actually honestly with the firepower in this like lineup I'm proposing, like you already have a Liege, you already have NAF, you have Floppy and oSee. Like, dude, that's such a strong 4 players that if you just got Nitro as the caller and just kind of like, I don't know, semi role player or like whatever, like I don't even think he needs to put up higher than like a 0.92 rating for that team to have like top 4 aspirations.
Yeah, and if Nitro comes back and feels refreshed in CS, he could. Well, no, Nitro can easily like average over that. Like
he could be 0.98 easily. Yeah.
I feel like he's usually around like a 1.00.
Yes, exactly. Yeah, exactly. That's kind of like
which is fine
for a caller when you have those other 4 players. That's what I would like to see.
Yeah, you almost don't even get the resources to do anything else other than a 1 clean at peak form, basically. I guess the confusing part is I haven't followed Nitro's career in Valorant, so I'm not sure if anybody else here has. Like, what has he been playing? Exactly. Like,
yeah. He's on a.
No, I mean, what has he been playing? Like the question is, how has he been utilizing his skill set? Do we think that anything translates back over in a sense? Do we have any trends to sort of?
I think so. Like he hasn't been playing like star roles. He's been playing like smokes, like Omen, Astra. I think maybe something else, that type of thing. So he hasn't been like one of the stars. He hasn't been calling though.
His most recent game, he played what the fuck? He played Jett and Cypher in this game. Is this real? Oh, in the last chance qualifier, he played Jett and Cypher. What the hell?
Well, that was a bit different because they were playing without Steel. So.
Oh yeah, okay. So he played before that. Okay, before that it was Omen, Astra, Viper. Omen, Astra, Viper.
Yeah. So smokes.
Yeah, so smokes. Yeah.
So just utility.
If he came back to CS, he'd be in like a pretty like a similar role. Obviously, it's much different than Valorant, but you know what I mean.
Yeah, of course.
Also, like Nitro can flex roles relatively easily over time. I think.
Yeah. In Valorant or CS?
In CS.
Okay.
Like he can adapt over time. He's one of the players who can learn. So
well, we just know that he's a father by now, right? So we just know that at this point he's a father.
He's a father. Yeah, he's a dad.
Yeah.
At this point, it's nothing against the guy. I'm just thinking like he might not have the time to spend relearning other roles or whatever. He might just have to slot in and do whatever his skill set initially biases him towards. But yeah, I mean, historically he has done that in CS.
I think it's more that he has enough experience where it wouldn't take as long for him to like adapt to other roles. Not necessarily that he would relearn like an entirely different role, but he could swap a position or two.
Sure, yeah,
or like swap into certain slots.
It would be really interesting as somebody who's obviously had to play in Valorant where there's a lot of stuff changing pretty frequently, by all accounts. The idea that he comes in and like, yeah, there's been meta changes. It would be funny to get an interview with him and ask him like, so how much has CS actually changed? And he's like, I don't know. You can throw grenades. That's cool. And then that's it. Other than that, same game. I'm like, okay, here we go.
Really quickly before I move on to, or we maybe even can continue on Liquid, I'm just gonna throw it out there that we're gonna have a Q&A section of this podcast, and if people are patrons, I think they could have already submitted their Patreon question, but if you also sub on Twitch, you can also ask a question, and we'll answer those all together later. But yeah, let's move forward.
If there are any patrons who haven't submitted their question and want to, while this is going on live, I can check that. So
yeah, so we'll check those all like right when we do the segment. So yeah, just a disclaimer there. And also another reminder. I don't know why. Okay, whatever. This is also on like podcast websites as well. So if you're on Apple Pods or Spotify, you can listen to It's Server Time there. I think there's a couple others, but those are the ones that I use. So just putting that out there once again. So let's put it out. Let's move on. One thing I guess with other Liquid news, how about this? I'll throw out the supposed roster that's there right now. And what's your guys' take on this? So right now it looks like a possible roster for Liquid moving forward will be Elige, Naf, Vinny, Shox, and Nitro. Does that team say we're gonna make it top 5 to you guys?
Is that rumored with NaF resigning? I thought that was before. I'm pretty sure they still want an offer.
I think it was before. Yeah,
but they didn't have a fifth confirmed or like rumored or whatever.
No, I'm saying like the NaF resigning means either Vinny or Shox is out. I'm pretty sure.
Does it?
Okay,
but I'm not sure which.
Wait, no, because it would be Elige, Naf, Nitro. If assuming he's coming,
there's
back.
Still a fifth. That's going to be an offer. I don't know what offer.
Oh, right, because they were in talks with oSee. Is the other rumor?
Yeah.
The
other rumor is oSee, and then there's like rumors that they talked to Mouz, but apparently those got disproved. But who knows?
I heard another kind of interesting rumor that they were talking to MHL. I just throwing that out there. That's like
MHL.
something.
Did they misspell MSL's name? What happened? I don't know who MHL is. So.
MHL is like this Polish opera. I think he played with was it Anonimo? No, it wasn't Anonimo. I don't know what Polish team he was on. Let me check right now. But I don't really know where that came from. Oh, AGO, from AGO. Yeah, okay. He's got a 1.22 in the past 2 months. In the past 12 months though, against top 30 teams, he's got a 1.20 rating, but only 11 maps and never played against a top 10 team. So. That's a raw talent that's out there.
Even less proven than oSee. Okay. I guess they could pivot to him if oSee doesn't say yes, because obviously Extra Salt's sort of on the come up. Like they've been recently qualified. Apparently we'll talk about them later, but the ESL Conference thing has been looking good for them. So yeah, I don't know.
Okay. No. Do you have any final thoughts on how do you think that roster would do?
The Liquid one?
Yeah.
I mean. Without Vinny, then potentially. I think if it's actually the one with Vinny, then I don't think they'll be able to do anything.
Okay.
It's just too many like support pillars without enough like star power. Basically, you're going from having too many stars to having not enough stars in that lineup.
You can only have 2 of Shox, Vinny, and Nitro.
Vinny. And Nitro.
Yeah.
Sorry,
yeah. You can't have 3 of
But like
those.
whether. If they get an offer, whether or not like the fifth is Vinny or Shox, I think either one could be good for different reasons. Like Vinny, I think is less of a risk. Vinny, I think, just slots in pretty easily and it's just does his thing. He's a role player. He does whatever. Whereas like Shox is like I think has like a higher ceiling, more potential, but also could be a bit worse depending on kind of like how Shox takes to it. Because there was like an interview or something, right, where he seemed to really take to that kind of like role player role. He said that like he thought it was like the best use of his skills at this stage of his career. So if he comes in and he's like committed to just like, yeah, I'll play wherever, like I'll just use my skills to help you guys and like lift everyone else up, then that could be like super, super good, because Shox would be insane in that role if he really commits to it.
Yeah, if it was up to me, I would take Shox over Vinny, just because based on experience, it's something that Liquid is going to lose a lot of when Stewie 2K leaves, and also when Fallen leaves. So assuming those two players are out, which I think is safe to say at this point, you have to get somebody, well, you don't have to, but it would make sense to get somebody else who's like a veteran status in. And Nitro also qualifies, but hasn't played CS most recently. So I think Shox, assuming he can gel in with an English-speaking lineup. The other question mark for that move to me is like the emotional side, because NA teams are notoriously a little bit easy to tilt, and French teams are notoriously easy to maybe not tilt, but at least get a rise out of. That doesn't seem like you're getting like the stable veteran necessarily, but Shox's performance hasn't been so terrible that I would say this is like not going to work at all. It still feels a bit underwhelming, but maybe they were also thinking in the context of like fans and, you know, getting a star signing happening and stuff like that, which I can understand, but I don't know how well that sets up your CS team to deliver top tier results. I think whatever happens with Liquid, we'll probably not see them go out of the gates banging heads the way that, you know, some of the past rosters have done.
Yeah, they would need some really like out of the blue signings if they want to do that, but yeah, as it stands right now, I'm not super high on any of the prospects. People in the chat were saying like Junior. I just haven't heard that being a rumor.
Over oSee, I don't think so.
Yeah, I would take oSee. Yeah, I think by now I would take oSee. I think a year ago I was higher on Junior. Maybe a year and a half ago I was higher on Junior, but now I'm definitely firmly more so inclined to believe that oSee is going to deliver on the highest level. So
I mean, yeah, exactly. I think I'm still a fan of Junior being on a top level team that's competing. I just think that if it came down to the choice to Liquid specifically between oSee and Junior, it would be oSee like 100% of the time.
I guess that is a natural fit as well, because if oSee leaves Extra Salt to go to Liquid, then Junior probably replaces him as opposed to sticking with B&B, right? Like that seems like a natural sort of shuffle, just because Extra Salt's a salaried team. So
I've heard some interesting rumors about that B&B roster and where they're headed, but I'm not gonna. We'll talk about that when things happen with that roster. I'll say that I knew, but I'm not gonna say anything about it.
Nice announcement of an announcement.
Announcement of an announcement. Announcement of them making an announcement, for which I will say I heard about this, but I really can't speak on it. It's just
you can't even cough and accidentally leak something that way.
Just on like one final note, I think the way I see it though, even if let's say the lineup is like NAF, Nitro, Elige, Shox, and oSee, right? That team will be the better of the two lineups, like between Vinny or Shox, but I don't see them competing against a team like the Vitality that's rumored for next year, this Astralis roster with more practice, NaVi. Like, I don't see them being able to take down these teams. It just seems like they will be much better than they are this year in terms of consistency, but they still won't be like a world-beating team.
I wonder about Evil Geniuses, since we're talking NA. I feel like maybe they would actually win out in the roster mania as far as like native NA top teams, but that's just based on rumors again. Even more.
Well, I thought they might
rumors.
if they had gotten NAF maybe, but now that they're not getting NAF, I highly doubt they'll be better.
I don't know. I think JKS is a lock for them, and if he can do something unlike the Complexity roster, which already had his position pretty heavily filled by two other players towards the end of it, feels like there's probably not going to be as much role overlap. He might be able to come out guns blazing again, and especially I guess also if some of the other like 100 Thieves, Renegades, former mix, the Extremum mix might be on the market. They might also be, sampled from. I'm not sure if they'll end up being like a top competitor and abroad, but I think they could give this new Liquid a run for their money, especially since I'm kind of counting on the new Liquid not immediately gelling and finding their form. I feel like they are going to need to actually work through some woes before they can really deliver at the top teams. Whereas this Evil Geniuses rumored roster seems like it could, be more stable from out the gate just because of lack of language barrier and other potential results. We'll see.
I'll put it out there that if Stewie joins EG, I think that they can be. I think their ceiling is very high. Like I think it's now knowing. Yeah. knowing how much Stewie contributes to the culture of a team and what he brings tactically speaking, and just his play in the server to enable other people. Like he's an enabler. He's like one of the best secondary IGLs. He could just full-time call if they want him to do that. Like he's when people say like players are versatile, like I think Stewie is like other than maybe playing like hard anchor positions or whatever, like he can do basically everything in the game. So I have really high hopes. And if you have a core of, like Breeze, Cirque, Stewie,
and then it would be JKS and one other is the
if you got JKS, and let's say like I would probably want some kind of like slightly more early round aggressive rifler, so it's not always just Stewie doing it. I think that team has an incredibly high ceiling. Like I don't know who that would be, but are there any names that are kind of floating out there? Like who could that? Like what if it were just JKS and Jacob? What if we're JKS and Jacob?
Oh, it could be that. I think the other name was Rush, which is like an obvious name now that I think about it. He's not exactly early game necessarily, early round, but he could be, I guess. If you
he can do. Rush is pretty versatile, but like the thing about Rush is just that like you're just not always getting a lot of firepower. Like at the end of his tenure with Complexity, he he's put in a lot of bad spots, but like it doesn't really account for the fact that on CT side, like he was pretty bad. Like in most of his anchor role positions, like he would get 0 kills a lot. And I find like when you're not getting ever a kill, like it's like we were talking about earlier, like there's a point where like delaying is cool and all, but like if you're not getting any kills, like then you're just not keeping the opposing team honest at all. So I felt like Rush was in a position like that. So I would love to see Rush kind of get reinvigorated. And you know what the thing is about Rush? Like he's been living in hotels for the last like 2 years or something like that. Yeah. So if he gets to live in America again, be a little bit more comfortable, I don't know. I feel like there's actually possibility that he like has a little bit of a resurgence. So that's. I
mean, you say that, but EG is a partner team in both Blast and ESL, that's like Liquid spent 250 days overseas this year
in like Amsterdam and
but it's still different from being in a literal hotel by yourself.
That's true. That is true.
You'd be with the team for sure. I mean, the other thing too, like if you actually take stock of all the names we've listed, it's like 3 of the players need career resurgences: Cirque, JKS, and Rush. It could happen, and I'd be stoked to see it happen. But that is a sort of knock against them potentially. It just feels like they're all, at the very least, their baseline known quantity levels should be enough to compete with a new Liquid roster and anybody else in NA. So Evil Geniuses could at least temporarily take that mantle of the coveted mantle of best North American team. Very coveted, very respected.
I think Extra Salt has a chance to get it.
They do.
If the Liquid roster doesn't go that well, if the EG roster doesn't get any
specifically if the Liquid roster doesn't contain oSee, but I feel like without oSee that team could really flop, if you know what I mean.
Let's. I want to use this time to pivot to Extra Salt. Actually, they just went through the ESL Conference. They just qualified for Pro League. I don't know how much you guys caught of it. I only really caught some of the Mad Lions game that they played, like the last one that they were in. It was. I'll say this. I'll give like a little bit of a briefing on what I saw. Some of my observations. I will say that like JT's use of pacing has improved as an in-game leader on the T side, where it's like sometimes slow rounds, sometimes fast rounds. Like still, like I'll say like their defaulting is just at a level that's really so solid now that like the problem with JT as an IGL 2 years ago. Was that it always felt like it had to be a set play or a set piece, but then he started incorporating defaulting before the set pieces, but sometimes they would just get beat in defaults. Now, with the personnel that they have, they don't lose defaults. Like if they have to default for a while, they can even find kills in the defaults. And that's something that like has taken Extra Salt, I think, to the next level, on top of the fact that their CT sides are just really good. Like they're really good at putting together like 3v4s. And 4v3s and stuff like that. Like I think everybody on this team, especially Floppy's bounce back. And I know we say his name all the time, but dude, like, oh my, the amount of multi-frags he got in that Mad Lion series was just like, is so like, dude, he just handled them at Ancient. Like, dude just came from Valorant, is playing Ancient, and he's literally just destroying people at lane. At
Floppy,
the banana area.
Might literally be better than he ever has been in CS right now.
Yeah.
So fun fact, I've actually been working with them for like this European run. A little bit before that.
Yeah.
Just like helping out, doing like prep and stuff for them. So it's been a nice little run they've been on. But they've just super improved. Like JT calling, like you said, like he's much more like defaulty and like changing the pace and stuff. Like he's really good and like comfortable with all that stuff. They're just so much better at defaults. I feel like just more well-rounded with like Marky and Floppy, and then Fink. Even like JT himself, I feel like has improved his fragging in like the past year or so compared to.
You wanna speak on JT's like entry attempts, because I always see it's like 30% or something crazy high. It's usually like not the highest success rate, but like what is JT's role in the system in your eyes, Mix?
I think JT just kind of throws himself in a lot. Like I think he knows, like he's very aware that like he's like overall a weaker fragger than like all of his teammates, right? And it's like he's not like insulted by that or anything. Like we frequently like tell Johnny to like shoot his gun or something. Like, but I don't know. I think he's just fine with like sacrificing himself a lot for like these executes, or like if they're taking map control somewhere, he'll usually like set up for Fang a lot of the time for like Fang to be the main aggressor, but like sometimes if they're just together, he'll just go first for him. Like he just sacrifices himself a lot. I think he just views like it's just good for an IGL to like view your player, like you playing, as more of like something to use in your system, right? Than like it's hard to explain. Rather than like actually like just playing yourself, like you're using yourself as like a chess piece for like what you're trying to accomplish overall, right? If that makes sense. And I think JT kind of commits to that a lot.
That kind of seems Kerrigan-esque in my eyes. Like Kerrigan kind of throws himself at situations also. Like he just kind of does whatever the team needs him, and with the players that Kerrigan has or JT has, it's just probably better if he runs in first. So yeah, I wouldn't mind if FaZe just really really briefly, if they just use Olaf with a Tech 9 only, and then just everybody else bait him, but because he's not playing too well lately. But yeah, going back to Extra Salt, I mean, like statistically speaking, like oSee was the highest rated player at the ESL conference. Floppy was like up there also. Other than like weirdly, like Eternal Fire like came in second to last place at that thing, but like they had 3 people in like almost the highest rated. Like I don't even know how that's possible in a double.
That sounds like the perfect way to describe like what I feel of that lineup.
Yeah, like when they win maps, it's just like it's like 16-0, but when they lose maps, it's like it's just the closest game, but they just can't get over that hump. Like I guess that's what happened to them. Admittedly, I didn't catch the games, but it's just weird how they statistically ended up there.
We also played Mouz NXT today in 2 of them. Like they decided to play some Cup.
I saw that on HLTV. I was actually I actually caught a little, just like a really brief amount of that, and I saw someone posted a highlight of oSee just scoping somebody without even seeing the scope at all. Like it's just oSee's on another level right now individually. How about this? What do you think? What do you think Floppy? So Floppy, obviously he left to play Valorant. He came back. You think he's in the best form of his career? Like, why do you think he's even better now?
I think it's just because we're a little over a year removed from the last time he played with like the South African C9, and obviously a team he was like actually comfortable with. So since then, it's been the Colossus, which he was never comfortable in because he was living in Serbia by himself. So just you got like a average version of Floppy, and then he went to Valorant for a bit. And so I think just going through like those two experiences kind of helps you as you like come back. You feel fresh, you feel motivated. He's learned a lot since then. His aim is like still perfectly on point. Like he still has all the confidence and like wide swinging. So I feel like he's pretty much just still has like everything that made him really good before, especially on like the previous South African C9, and it's just added like more experience and more like mental like maturity and stuff to it.
Okay, yeah, he also took like a mental break as well after leaving Valorant. Like
he started playing Minecraft on stream. Yeah, I saw it.
What a character!
It's kind of similar in that way. Like we kind of went to this like thing where
similar. Like Minecraft. Yeah.
No, I'm saying because like we obviously both went to the Colossus, and then he went to like a small phase in Valorant, and then like took a break. I went to like the Nordivan thing, and then like I opted to like take a break right after it, just because I was so fucking burnt out.
Yeah.
So just following similar trajectories.
Does that mean you'll also be announcing a joining of a salty team, or?
I mean, I could.
You could announce
as an analyst.
There's a lot of things that can happen. We'll see.
Yeah. Right. Okay. Well, hopefully. Okay. I mean, I hope that works out for you.
Future is a mystery. A lot of things can happen.
It is.
Let me hint at a move and then tell you about it.
There's also
an announcement of an announcement.
There it is.
There's also other things I could do. You think I'll be in CS, but I could do something completely different.
Are there Minecraft analysts out there? Is that a future?
I'm sure there are.
Yeah, it's called Rainbow Six. You know, they're just smashing walls down with TNT and stuff. You know?
Yeah, I could never get into Rainbow Six. I don't know if you guys ever watched it, but
yeah, I have.
It's very confusing to me.
I've attempted to. Yeah.
Yeah. There might be a future.
I've attempted to play it as well, and I do not have the patience for that game. Like. Yeah. After like 20 seconds, I'm trying to like knock down each door, and I'm looking for fights. I'm like, let's go.
Yeah, seriously. I just want to I kind of hate strafing while like holding a lean key, kind of thing. That's a little.
Yeah, I also have a general detestment of aiming down sights in an FPS because I feel like the whole point of an FPS is that I have to shoot you in the head without like super crazy assists, like the scope just zooming in. Obviously, the op is a bit different, but like that's one of the reasons why like obviously the Krieg and the AUG were always called COD guns back in the day is because you guys just have the scope, and at least you can hold it for like defensive posturing, but the fact that every gun has aiming down sights in some of these other games is like a massive turnoff for me.
Fuck that, dude. The op is exactly the same. It's a noob gun.
Listen, I agree, but most people won't. I mean,
when I modded Counter-Strike, I removed just body shot people though. Yeah, the A1S is even noob. You don't even have to headshot. You just body shot. Yeah. Okay, you know what? Let's just maybe go to the questions. If we have, I think there's a couple more roster things we could talk about, but let's just get to some of these questions here. So I'm gonna put the chat actually just to make this easier on myself. Anyone that's like a sub, just boom. I made it in sub only mode for we'll do this for just a couple minutes, and it's nothing against any of the non-sub people, but let's just make this easier on us. So type a question if you have one. We'll answer the Patreon questions first, but yeah, if you're a sub, you are free to a question.
I like how you put it in sub only mode as if the chat was being flooded before.
It wasn't. It wasn't at all. But it's easy now.
Listen, you can't break the wall like that. You can't break the fourth wall like that. No, come on. Like the people viewing this afterwards on YouTube are like, "Holy shit! There must have been thousands of chatters."
Yeah, no, it's sub only. Everybody's just spamming my emote. Okay, that's cool.
All right. To the thousands watching on Twitch and the millions watching on YouTube.
Yeah. This is actually being broadcast live.
In the air.
Sorry, guys, I need the chat to stop spamming because my laptop is getting really hot.
Yeah. Okay, guys, ask your question in the chat. Okay. Let's do the first Patreon question. We have two right now. The first question is a team we haven't talked about and haven't frankly seen too much of lately, and this one comes from Spruce Moose. He asks, what roster changes would you guys do to improve OG?
I don't even know.
Yeah, let me look at the roster.
I would send Alexi B to G2. I think that would improve OG. And that's obviously just a rumored move. The big tough part is that this question is asked, and then like the G2 rumors start circulating, and how there's the Monazi deal potentially coming through, depending on if NaVi can agree to some particulars with G2. There's the Alexi B deal that might be happening, which would be, I think, a pretty solid a solid move for G2 specifically. But like, what does OG do in that situation? You know?
It's so weird because even like not considering say the Alexi B doesn't get like poached or whatever, whoever else you still don't even know what you do with the lineup exactly because I don't
think there's anyone on this team who I can immediately think that should be cut, and it's just
right.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't even know what to possibly say to this lineup.
Because they're like a good team. They just haven't broken through, but they're not like bad, So they kind of just fly under the radar a lot. So it seems like overall it's not really like one person just carrying all the time and then like everyone else just not pulling their weight. Like they all seem to be like almost around like a similar level, which is also kind of a bad thing because I feel like Valde should have like higher than a 1.03 rating.
Yeah.
I think what sucks for OG is that they aren't an EPL or a Blast partner, so they are not frequently invited. Like you don't see them frequently at either of those events.
They're not an EPL partner?
No.
I thought they were.
They're a Blast partner. They're a Blast partner.
OG?
Yeah, OG or Blast partner.
They're for sure a Blast partner.
Yeah.
Because they were at the original Blast, I remember, in 2020. Like, when they started doing that.
Oh, okay. Maybe they're a Blast partner. My bad. But they aren't an ESL partner, and so they aren't getting the automatic invites to those events. They are getting the Blast invites, I guess. So they have, like, half the circuit as a chance to prove themselves, but obviously, like, ESL have Well, I guess more like a third of the
It's
circuit,
like a quarter, tiny fraction,
So we don't get to see as much of them at these events as we possibly could, which sort of sucks for them because, again, like none of us can come up with a possible person to like really change. I think that would make sense because this team they're not bad. We just don't see them enough, so we can't really get an impression of them.
So it did feel like when Nico first joined the roster, I saw some higher highs for him as an individual, and then I think when that kind of like Hunden drama stuff started happening, it seemed kind of correlated with his performance that he started. I'll just put it out there. Yeah. For his first 4 events with OG, he had above a 1.0 rating for 3 out of 4 of them. And then there was this string of him in 6 events where he had under a 1.0. 5 of 6 he had under a 1.0. And I feel like it coincided with the kind of the timing of the Hunden behind the scenes like ESIC investigation and drama. So I think there's a possibility that like his performance was impacted by that. I mean, how could it not be
the whole team,
a little bit when that's hanging over your head? Yeah. Then they've kind of spoken about that. So it's, if I'm judging based off of actually performance and stripping away context, I'd probably take Nico out. I'd probably put in a different type of rifler. I don't know who I would put in right now, but I'm trying to even think of like who's on the market. Like, okay, give me shocks, give me shocks or something like that. Like just somebody out there. That would be kind of cool to see, because I also think that it wouldn't be bad if someone were to question Alexi B's IGLing style, because kind of like some individual players,
I was gonna say
the tendencies after a while.
I'm trying to think, like, if I have to take like 2 people out of this lineup, I am almost tempted, like, if I needed to like actually do something that might improve the team, like I might literally just opt to go in a different direction than Alexi B and Rugga, the same IGL coach duo they've had the past like year and a half.
Yeah,
it's like I don't think like just replacing Nico with shocks would like do much. It's like might make them a little bit better, but I feel like I
think it's just a little less mistakes.
They'll just be like in the same spot for the most part. So I don't know. I really don't know what outside you can do. What you can do outside of like changing out Alexi B and just trying something else like that.
Yeah.
If he goes to G2, maybe it could be a blessing for OG. Like get something different in.
Yeah, there is that point. The thing is, like, either you change the leadership so that this team can get a brand new direction, or you don't change anything and you keep it. To the point about like the whole Hunden drama sort of hanging over this team. I mean, there were serious implications in the interview that Richard Lewis did with one of the like main guys at OG. There were serious implications that they thought maybe Nico would be banned by ESIC and they would need to replace him with somebody else. And that is 100. If the organization are concerned about that, they probably have to inform the team about that. Even if they don't inform the team about that, the team are going to be reading all of the stuff on HLTV. They're going to be looking at all the news and all the takes. That's 100% going to like work against them and in an effort to maintain some sort of stability. So I think that's a huge hit to them in general. And that does mean that they probably didn't deliver nearly what they should have, in air quotes, for the like caliber of roster. Like they've got players like Valde on the team. This is a team that should be able to go places. So I think now that that's blown over and is no longer a concern, we might see something different out of OG. The only reason why I would even say maybe change out Alexi B is because the rumors are that he's going to be going to G2 anyway, or at least that they're in talks. So if that's even on the table, then maybe Alexi B isn't as invested in this project. It is G2, second place at the major. It makes sense for him to move there if he wants another shot at like, 100% guaranteed tier 1 competition, whereas obviously OG hasn't been able to do that because of the partner league stuff that we talked about earlier. So there's a lot of sense made in either angle you take, but I can't really argue for removing anybody else, right? Because there's nobody to replace them.
You know what roster change I do to improve OG?
Okay. I know players. Actually, I know what I would do now.
Just get rid of Rugga and bring in Xtaz.
Okay.
If you can speak English enough.
I actually think that'd be kind of cool to see him try to challenge Alexi B on some of his calls. I actually thought of this just now. I would actually want Alexi B out and just give me MSL at this point. Actually, I think that I'm actually one of the people that's like probably lowest on MSL, but I think that some of the way Alexi B calls on T side now is just like very figured out. I usually try to do this when I'm like casting or on a desk. I'll try to highlight it. Like OG have a very specific style that's almost like the opposite of NaVi on T side, where it's like, whereas NaVi will try to do 2 things at once a lot of the time on their T sides, like OG are like the most like we're gonna be an amorphous blob that just kind of moves around the map together, and it kind of allows teams to flank them very often, and it allows like people like they don't even use lurkers most of the time, so like teams never have to like they can early rotate if they know an OG hit is happening. They just immediately rotate to what's happening on the map. I think Alexi B is kind of getting figured out because he kind of has always really been part of that like let's just move as a group and try to trade off of each other's style. And I think it's to a point where teams now can kind of cheat a little bit against them. And cheat not like Hunden, but I mean cheat like they'll like move across the map earlier than they would against other teams that keep them honest with a lurker. Yeah. So let's so yeah, I would just want to see a different style for them completely, change up their T sides. You know, it's not like Alexi B is. He's probably a little bit better individually than MSL, but if you get a 7% increase win rate on T side, I think that makes up for everything. So that's probably.
I mean, there's a world where like I think Alexi B could like go to G2 and like improve them, and also MSL can go to OG and improve them as well. Yeah. It's like I'm almost at a point where I feel like Alexi B just needs to go like either like get a different coach or just go somewhere else and
change it up a bit. I wouldn't mind an IGL mix and mash kind of thing. But I think we did that question justice. Let's do the next Patreon question. This is from Bill, a longtime sub. He says, so since people are saying NaVi are close to an era, how many eras would you guys say exist in CSGO? Most people say 3 with NIP, Fnatic, and Astralis. Would anyone still argue that the SK Luminosity era was 1?
Well, the only reason why they even have a claim is because they won 2 majors, right? So
yeah,
they didn't really do too hot outside of majors. And if you really value majors, like top tier, then I can see why people would argue. Or if you just happen to have a Brazilian flag on HLTV, then maybe then you also argue for it. But for the most part, like I don't see much of an argument for them in the same way that like you stack up the accomplishments of everybody else. It doesn't feel like it. People will naysay about NIP just because they were at the beginning of the game before the competition really kicked off, right? But still, you can only beat
I'll still always argue that's an era.
That's an era. That's an era. That is
just it has to be just because
doesn't mean it's not. Like
it has to be. Like that's the only naysayer argument I've ever heard against NIP. And even then, it's not like this isn't an era. It's more like this era doesn't matter as much as the other eras. But like they still admit that it's an era, right?
Yeah, I still. Like, even if it's, like, early in the game, going 87-0 is still very fucking difficult, like...
On maps?
Yeah, on maps. Like, that's still insane, even if it's early in the game. Like, it's not like they were literally playing against, like, DMGs. Like, they're still playing against other good players, like, plenty of, like, pros and stuff.
So when I look back at a lot of those games and the interviews around them, it seemed like... The one thing that did give NIP a big boost against a lot of those teams was that early on in the game they were the first adopters, so they had something like whereas a lot of people that they were playing against had like only 900 hours in the game, like the NIP players like had 1700 hours in the game, and I think the least was probably on like maybe Fifth Lauren and Exist, and they were like still at like 1200 hours in the game, whereas so they had like, if you want to just think percentage wise, like a 30 to even 100% boost in like experience playing in Counter-Strike Global Offensive versus everybody. But so like that obviously gives you a leg up, but that's just like saying, well, Simple has the most hours probably of anybody, but it's like we praise him for that. We're not going to say that invalidates his accomplishments. The Fnatic one, what do you guys? It was like. The Fnatic era was, I think people will like definitely agree with that. I don't know if like how, I don't know how, like they won a lot in like the post-NIP era, like 13, 14, probably early 15, but it wasn't like, I guess they won a few in a row at times.
I think they definitely had an era for how many tournaments they won in a row.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. They won like a lot, and they won. How many majors they won? 2. They won back-to-back majors also.
Yes.
They were in the finals. No, they were in the finals. Cologne. That was like the first event with like that lineup, 2014, and then obviously the whole LDLC shit.
Yeah.
And then like 2015, they really like hit their stride, and everything kind of came into play for them.
Yeah.
Up until like the third major of the year.
It was just the length of their results that established their position. I think you guys are forgetting the crucial Cloud9 summer 2015 era.
True.
Yeah, shortest era in history, right? Yeah,
not
the only era without winning an event.
Yeah. A string of second place finishes. Yeah, not bad.
Listen, that was a big deal.
Silver medalists, you know.
Yeah, the silver era, the silver NA era.
In more ways than one, perhaps, but.
I don't think I would put so actually to get to Bill's question about the SK Luminosity thing, I don't think I could give them an era because I think they won they won Columbus and that was a huge shocker, and it was like after they did come in second place in a couple tournaments prior to that, I think Katowice, they came in second right before that, so it was kind of like going into that event they were like, you know, one of the better teams, like people knew they were one of the better teams, but I don't think people really pegged them as like favorites, unless they were like really homers for them, and then between that major between Columbus and Cologne, they actually did win 2 more events. They won, well, not really. They like won Pro League NA, and then they won Pro League. They won the Pro League Season 3 finals, which are pretty legit like placings overall. And they came in second place at ECS Season 1, and they came in second place at CEVO Pro League Season 9. So...
How many events did they win besides the major? Just one?
2. Well, I don't know if you count the NA. The NA event is online.
No,
so
only like the LAN. Yeah.
So pretty much just one.
Looking at Fnatic, they won... So between like the two majors, they won 4 events. Yeah.
They won a lot of events then. So... well, if you look at like A-tier events, I guess they also won a DreamHack Open. No, that doesn't really count.
I don't know. I just kind of look at like 2016 was like SK's year. I don't think anyone would argue that. But
it was their year, but I don't think it was an era.
Yeah, the real fuzzy question is like what constitutes an era versus just being the team to beat for, you know, an entire calendar year, right? And I think that's a big part of it too, is like, did you have like a proper challenger? You know, so I'm not too hot on either answer to the SK Luminosity question. It just feels to me that they fizzled out too early without getting another #1 win. And I know that they did place highly in some tournaments after they had started to drop off, but that drop off is not commensurate with having an era the way that the other eras that we've commonly accepted are. Like, yes, Astralis went back and forth, but by the time they had gone down, most people had just said that's sort of the end of their era. And then they came back for a brief period of time, which maybe wasn't so brief in retrospect, but they came back for a brief period of time. People were like, oh, they're still a top team. But at that point, I think that you could argue their era had already faded. You can't even really say that with the SK guys because they didn't go back to like world beater #1 form really ever after their era, quote unquote, in air quotes, ended, right?
I'm gonna be honest. I think if there's one thing I'm like really sick of talking about in CS, it's eras. I think my least favorite conversation is like, what is an era, you know? And then having to hear that.
It is also getting like a little bit too repetitive in terms of like the way NaVi are playing right now and everybody talking about it. It's like a bit too much.
Yeah.
So yeah, I can understand that.
Okay. I don't think I'll just answer the question flat out. I don't think there's any other eras. And to be keen on the NaVi angle of it, NaVi would be in their era if their results earlier in the year weren't online. So
I think like even Simple said at the end of Blast that they need at least one more tournament win for it to even be considered close.
Yeah, back events would be a real that'd be a real
no. He specifically said that winning 3 events in a row is not actually an era, really? And it's like he said so many teams have won 3 events in a row. He'd rather like
they won Cologne. Oh, so he's not counting Pro League because it was online.
Yeah, he said especially LAN events.
Okay,
exactly.
Yeah, sure.
Well, he's not going to be at another arena for a while though, so I wonder how that'll factor into, you know, the NaVi angle storyline.
I think the World Finals, even if it's in a studio, if they win that, it's still like on that tier of competition that you're facing. So that would probably, I think that would count in my eyes.
If it's a studio event, then yeah, for sure.
Yeah, because like what Katowice was not, it had to be a studio event for part of it, and that still was like a huge victory in that sense.
That was when they were supposed to kick off the NaVi era, if you remember from all the exit interviews. They were like, yes, now we can have a real shot at establishing an era if we win more tournaments, and then online. And then the world ended.
Okay, Twitch question here from No Paul, who subbed up. Is there a non-Brazilian team coldzera could improve? Wow. Non-Brazilian team.
To be honest, I'm not very high on coldzera in terms of stocks.
Yeah.
After the last 2 years, like I don't know what exactly he could. The problem with Cold is that he has like very set positions and a very set style he wants to play, which makes it hard to just plug him into a random team. Like
It would have to be after
like,
yeah. It would have to
be
after
feel like
rebuild.
part of a rebuild essentially on a.
Listen, I'm an armchair psychologist, but it kind of just seems like he thinks very highly of himself and like the teams he should be playing for and what he should be doing on the teams.
Like, Brazil, I am not saying these words.
You can say Attack told you these things, Mix.
Do not come to my Twitter.
I don't give a fuck. Listen, Cole thinks highly of himself. I don't know what team he even fits into at the moment. It just seems like he kind of comes in and is a bit of a team wrecker. Like, I don't know.
Well,
like,
he has
what teams have even meshed with him over the past like 3 years? Like,
yeah, FaZe had trouble with him too. Yeah,
like it just seems like I don't know. It seems like his ego is a bit too big for where he's at in the scene at the moment, in terms of what he needs. The teams he could join. I think it just affects his mentality too, coming into the scene. I don't think he approaches it the best way.
Maybe he could join like an NIP or something, and secondary call for them. Like, if they were to speak English. But like even then, it's not a good. But here's the thing: like, there's no good moves for him right now. That's the thing. Like, that's not even a move I like. That's not even a move I like. I'm just looking at the top 30 world ranks, and I'm like, okay, this could happen. Like, it's not a good move, but out of any team,
he could. Like, you know what? I wouldn't hate if he were on Movistar Riders. I wouldn't hate it. If
Aren't they all coming Spanish though?
Dude, because Movistar are okay right now, but I think they they had like a recent string of overperforming. But like basically with Movistar, I know this about them, that basically like Mopaz, pretty good lurker player, Sunpayas, solid aggressive opper, and then like I don't really like love anybody on the team personally. So if you just kick one of the other three, it's like I'm okay with it. I would entertain it. I would entertain it. Do I think they're gonna? And right now they're ranked 18th in the world. Do I think they could get to 15th? Yeah. With Cold, like a couple string of results wouldn't hurt.
I think at the moment Cold is like expecting to like jump on to like one of the top tier orgs and be like a star player for them.
Yeah,
he's expecting those offers to get, and I don't think he's gonna.
That's not happening.
Yeah. Cold just has to build like his own Brazilian lineup, I think, with a new org and help bring up talent at this point. I don't think he's just not in a position to like join a top 30 team or something. And
there was a sorry, go ahead.
I just don't see it happening right now. Like maybe he could try and elevate his stock over the next year and then make the jump up, but I don't know. I don't think it'll happen immediately. Also, I withdraw my NIP comment because now Night Owl God Leet in chat has made a very good point, which is he made Device cry in the past, and it makes it so he definitely can't join NIP.
Blacklisted, blocked. Yeah,
okay.
I don't know. I feel like the question's conceit is it has to be a team that's not Brazilian. I'm not even really that convinced that coldzera could improve a Brazilian team. So,
well, yeah. True.
Like you'd have to go down to like tier 3 basically, or like O Nation, 0-0 wins.
0-0 prospects.
Why is that their team? Has anybody, Josh? You know people in the X Nord event camp. What happened, man? Where are they? Do they?
I don't know. They should have come to me for these things.
Yeah.
Yeah, they should have. You should have stuck around to just tell them that name doesn't make sense.
Yeah. Or it does. It makes perfect sense. And that's the problem.
There was one question we missed that was from a sub, which was
I see it.
The Fnatic question.
Yeah, I see. The Gibby G said, "Where is the peak for Fnatic?" I think they just are going to steadily improve. Honestly,
yeah.
I think
they'll reach top 10 for sure.
Okay, I have a more quantifiable question. Where do you think Fnatic place at IEM Winter?
Ooh.
Okay.
First, all right. Wait, who's going? Let me see.
Everybody's pretty much going except for NaVi.
Oh yeah, first.
I actually see them being able to upset Gambit.
So the first round, they're against Gambit. No, I mean, maybe.
Gambit are
Maybe.
onliners.
VP.
Fnatic own them. ENCE destroy VP because ENCE are not onliners, even though they are. So then Fnatic defeat ENCE, and then
Yeah, this is rough.
they probably go up against Heroic. They own them.
I
they
think
upper
Fnatic
bracket. They don't drop
Fnatic
a map.
definitely got his bracket.
I
I
think
think
they
they can
can
too. I think they
I
can
actually
too. I
very
didn't
much
realize
think
how kind of weak it felt. You know, like in a way. Like I think the other. I almost feel like the other side is so much harder. Group A is so much harder. What the hell? Like, there's a couple of really weak teams. Like you'd say Tyloo would be there, and maybe Mouz. But then like
NIP
every
as
other
well.
team there is so good. I think NIP would probably beat Fnatic.
No,
even
way.
no. The thing is, we see them have these bad T sides against the best competition in the world, and Fnatic are not. They're just not the best in the world.
Are you sure about that? Have you seen Alex's calling, bro? Like, he doesn't even matter how many T sides you get on an NIP side. Alex will destroy you on T sides. He's destroyed teams on T sides. So I've been watching some of their games. I was supposed to cast.
I actually do think this Fnatic can make a pretty good impact at this event. And also, just like to answer the original question, I can see them being like the top 10 again sometime next year. Like, I think in the first 6 months of next year for sure.
Yeah, I think with I'd say top 7. I'd go as far to say top 7. They could get top 7.
Top 7.
I mean, this team genuinely has like the talent on it to be like a top team in the scene. It just depends on whether they keep developing in that direction. But I think they literally have our lineup that can definitely like keep growing together and reach like top 5 like elite levels. I think they have the talent for that.
I don't know about top 5 with this roster.
I think they could. I think it's so solid. Like Brolin, Crims, fucking Mezzy.
When you say something like top 5, the amount of time it would take for them to climb there, you're gonna have teams like the new Vitality, the new Astralis, like very much established in terms of their
Fnatic will be better than Vitality.
No.
There you go. Bold predictions.
Okay,
he said it.
This is the real prediction.
Listen. I'm gonna make a bold prediction right now. All right.
Is the number gonna keep growing?
Next year is going to be a better team than Vitality.
Next year.
Oh, next year. That's actually I'll take that bet too.
How about
I'll jump on. I'm on Mix's side on the
first
on the
6
show.
months. Ooh.
Yeah. You have
that's
to do
harder.
6 months
because I don't know if they're going to do roster swaps. I don't know if they're going to do roster swaps.
Vitality will 100% change rosters in a year, so that's why I'm betting on Fnatic being better.
Wow.
They will 100%?
Oh, yeah. This roster doesn't work out the way that they want it to in the opening. I still think it'll work better than people are suspecting, maybe. Like, there are some doubters, and I'm one of them. But I don't think their problems are coming in the first 6 months. I think they're coming further down the line. And you'll see Apex out of the roster. He's my bet to go. The Danish trio is too hard to upset. They have the coach, who's like the management guy now, right? He's sort of a bridge between team and management. And I know Vitality's roots have always been French, but I really think Apex is going to he's going to bump up against Magisk, who wants to do some of his own calling, and he's going to probably be the secondary caller. There's going to be the language issues. And then they'll say, you know what, Apex, man, if you looked like Glaive, this would be a much better lineup. And you know what, Masuda, if you looked like, who am I missing? Device, you'd be so much better. Zaiwu, you can stay, though. It's fine. It'd be
some shit posting happening at the moment.
Yeah.
Zaiwu, if you look like Device, wait, no, actually,
actually, stay the way you are. Stay the way you are, dude.
Zaiwu, you're not involved in this. Everyone else.
Imagine the old Astralis lineup that was obviously like the era-defining one, and instead of Device, you have Zaiwu. Like that, possible.
Let's go to Yumi's question. Do you think that the major metric, so basically like defining eras based off of how many majors you win, is broken, given we've moved from 3 majors per year early on to 1 per year, if even that? I feel like both, like kind of like, for the nuanced answer, kind of broken, because you would say like X player has won so many majors, but then like so like early on, yeah, it was a little weird. It was a little weird with the majors, because you would basically like see just so many going on, and it's almost like who could win. In the first like couple years, it kind of felt like, oh, if this team is just like feeling it this tournament, they could win it, you know? But I still think that the importance of those events was so grand that it kind of to me showed which teams were the best and could also handle their nerve on LAN. And when people kind of talk about like the difference between LAN on online, it's nerves. The major was always going to instill that sense of like just paramount importance to everybody, that they would be shook a little bit more to their core, so much so that if you're not holding your own in those moments, if you're like Cadian and you choke in elimination games, like then you're never gonna have a major, even if there's more of them. So I think they're really important for designating like nowadays. Like if it's 2 a year, I think they're incredibly important, but it has shifted a little bit.
If there's one every 2 years, then they become even more important. So.
Oh, that's crazy. That would just be just like too long. That's just like, what the hell is going on
long,
there? Yeah.
It might be. We would never know, but it might be too long.
Yeah, but so I'll like kind of contrast it with something where it's like still keeping it within esports. Like for TI, OG won back-to-back TIs, but in the time between TIs, they didn't really do shit. So like nobody would really say that's an era for them that they won the 2 TIs. Like even though they won back-to-back TIs and they're now like the most winningest players in esports history in terms of prize earnings by a large margin, you still wouldn't say like this was the OG era, but like in real sports, it's like by seasons, and seasons kind of like have it's kind of just different because you're playing for like 8 months out of the year for most sports. If you go all the way to the playoffs and you have these nice breaks, and then you can reset.
Well, it's a lot different between that and like, because in like Dota and CS, you're playing like event to event rather than playing like one continuous season.
Yeah. I wouldn't really compare it with real sports. You can't. You kind of.
It's more like tennis. Like however you define that shit in tennis, whoever wins a major or whatever. I don't know like how that. I don't watch tennis, so. But
I don't know the circuit.
It's a similar kind of circuit in general. Like you can make it vague allegories.
For me, the idea is that now that we have events like Cologne and Katowice that are separate from the major circuit, that are also 24 team events with $1 million prize money, I think that yes, majors have their own level of prestige and they're important for establishing something like an era. I don't think they're necessarily the be-all, end-all if a team is dominant enough to run through and win enough events in a span of time. Like, yes, winning a major is like... It's a large component of establishing an era, I would say. But if you have no majors to play in because there aren't any being put on, then obviously you can really only win what's in front of you in that sense. Mm-hmm. But even so, I think even if there's one major a year, you can still establish an era over that time. Like, for example, NaVi are en route to doing it now. And the fact that there are fewer than there used to be isn't necessarily like a knock on it, because there are so many other events of high caliber competition that you can compete in now.
Yeah.
That sort of make up for that like lack of frequency.
Yeah. I would agree with that. I just think in general, when you're looking at something like the majors and comparing those to other tournaments, the only reason why majors are held in high esteem is because they're held in high esteem. Like the reputation of the major hasn't caught up, or rather the reputation of a major event or a major level event hasn't gotten attached to some of these other big name tournaments that in many respects are just as hard to defeat opponents within, just as a major is, right? So they're just as hard to conquer. They just happen to not have the same gravitas because they're not called a major, which feels kind of arbitrary, but that's just how it is because of the way that the scene developed. So I think the biggest issue is that the pressure isn't on the same way when you're not at a major. However, everything else is identical for me. Like everything else is just as good. Sometimes the production's even better, like we saw with this Blast event, which wasn't even a 24 team event anyway, but like, still a similar corollary you could make. So yeah, I just feel like there's a lot that you could say about the major metric. I just generally don't feel like, especially since you don't have as many opportunities to get into a major these days, it feels a bit weird to rely on those so heavily. And even then, I mean, for the NaVi case, we don't have to wonder because they won the major. So if they do go on to establish the era in the next couple of events, nobody's going to hold that question mark over their head. But at the same time, if they hadn't, if they had placed second and G2 somehow upset them, it would be kind of a shoddy sort of black mark. But the favorite almost never wins the major. So like that was already a surprise as it stands. I think they still could have had it even if they hadn't done that.
Yeah. say to sum it up, like CSGO majors to me just feel more like a really grand tournament as opposed to an indicator necessarily of like pure like long-term success, because it's just like it's just a tournament like any other, like in a lot of respects, whereas yeah, like a Katowice or Cologne is also, or even a Blast World Finals to a degree, is just like wow, that it kind of blows you away with how much it takes to come out on top in those, just like a major. I'll move to the last sub question we have, which is Blender of Death. My sub question is, what is everyone's predictions if/when Mouz NXT will overtake Mouz in HLTV rankings, and if that happens, what will they do with the two teams? Yeah, go for it.
I was just gonna say as soon as Rops joins another team,
Yeah.
which will, because it's gonna tank their HLTV points regardless.
Yeah, I'll say, like, because I like follow it a lot really closely, because especially since I'm watching Mouz at these Academy League games, and I kind of like a lot of the players on the team. I think Mouz have kind of indicated to me already that they're not gonna do anything. Like they're not trying to like find the best roster. Like if they were trying to find the best roster, they already would have switched players on these teams. So that's not like they're not doing that. They're just holding everybody in the state that they're in right now. And if Mouz NXT pass Mouz, I almost feel like nothing's gonna happen at all. Like I just think nothing's gonna happen other than the fact that Rops and maybe even Frozen are gonna be like more and more disgruntled over time, because like they're the two in my eyes that just deserve better than what this roster is giving them right now. And whether Mouz take from other teams to improve their own, which seems unlikely given the Orcs' history, or they just leave and they join other rosters, I don't think that it's gonna be like a slow integration, which you would ideally want from an academy team and a proper team where it's put the best five together.
What do you think about, like, because I don't really follow Mouz, I feel like, as closely. Like, Dexter especially, I feel like I don't know what the consensus is on, like, Dexter.
I think it's kind of poor.
Like, his IGLing and his play.
It's kind of poor. It's kind of
I have not been impressed watching it.
Yeah. It's actually a little bit, I think it's a little more structured than Hampus is calling. But like that's not really that hard, is it? It's really default centric. I think that in the beginning of it, it was really bad, and then when with what I saw at Flashpoint 3, the peak of it was just that everybody just takes the right proper initiative on their own. No one knows where the first kill's coming from, and everybody's just trying their best to like just make something out of nothing, and then mid round, like it's really like it doesn't really feel like a plan is ever happening in these rounds. It feels almost like a very Swedish style of calling, of just defaulting and playing with feeling. Gotcha. So yeah, that's my take on what's going to happen with Mouz. I don't think anything's going to happen, except for they're going to slowly sell their players, and then you know what? Maybe this is my boldest prediction for that, is that they just flat out drop the entire Mouz regular roster, and Mouz NXT just becomes the new proper roster, kind of Gambit Youngsters-esque, where they just promote them by way. The only thing that would stop this from happening is that they have a spot in the We Play Academy League, and that actually is like kind of a buy-in thing. Like I think I don't know if it's not like Flashpoint where it's like $2 million buy-in or something like that, but I know that the Academy, like the orgs that are in the Academy League, are kind of like part owners of it, and they decide a lot of what's happening in it. And I think like they're the ones paying my day rate, for example. Like they have a stake in it, and so I almost feel like if Mouz NXT get promoted to become the real roster, then the new Mouz Academy roster is going to be just some new 5-man lineup that they'll put together, or they just flat out just keep calling them Mouz NXT while the Mouz main roster is just dead. I don't know.
Yeah, I guess it would be really weird if the Mouz main roster didn't end up going anywhere, and then NXT lineup replaces them at events, but also still plays the Academy League. Like, and Sunday's match is against NaVi Jr., but Monday's match is against Astralis. It's like, what the fuck? Where are you guys? What is going on here?
Yeah, there needs to be a rule that you have to have a main roster to have an Academy roster. But like, yeah, I don't know what's gonna happen actually, because I think Mouz NXT will just pass Mouz within a. Because look at the result. Look at So let's just pivot to IEM Winter and some of our predictions. I have one way I want to structure this discussion, but to keep it on Mouz to finish this out, like they're gonna start by playing Vitality, and then they're gonna play another loser, and one of those losers is gonna be OG or Liquid, NIP or Astralis, or G2 or Tyloo. If they get Tyloo, they could lose that. They can lose that, and then every other team's just better.
That, yeah. Well, the other thing, nobody's been watching Tyloo at all. Nobody's been following it. I think it is kind of funny that there's a rematch of the famous Starry 1v5 versus G2.
Oh yeah, the blast thing.
The blast one, yeah, where they almost got 2-0'd, by the way, if you ever go back and watch that one. So that was a good bit. But there's a rematch of that coming up. That'll be an interesting matchup. Gives a little bit of spice to something that otherwise you wouldn't care about at all. The Tyloo guys, and also the LinVision guys for that matter, have been they've both been doing stuff. They've both been actually grinding away at like the tier 2, maybe even tier 3 if you're not feeling too generous, European circuit. So you're actually seeing a ton of Chinese sort of action happening there because of this extended stay, and I think that's really interesting. Just because we're gonna be able to take a look at how they've shaped up. So yeah, I don't think Tyloo will defeat G2, but I do think Tyloo will probably defeat Mouz if they match up.
Yeah, Tyloo just lost to Skade, who are ranked 31st in the world, but both of the games were in overtime.
Yeah.
Wow. That's pretty impressive.
And I think these opening matches, by the way, are best of 1, if I remember reading correctly.
Yes, that's correct.
So, even then, you could get a G2. You could get a G2 upset. I don't think it's very likely.
Mouz can win that. Mouz might beat. No, they're not going to beat Vitality.
I think Mouz just goes out last place in this.
They could. Because if Mouz loses, they have to play Nipper Astralis. So
yeah.
Oh, that's how it goes. Okay,
yes.
They're just sorry. They're just done.
That's the bracket. They play.
The bracket
they play
doesn't
NIP
flip
Astralis.
until the second round of the lower semis.
Okay.
So they better win.
Oh, Yumi is saying LinVision isn't at IEM Winter. Starry is on LinVision.
Yeah. I was trying to say that like it's sort of like the big. If you guys remember, there's actually a really old meme where Draken I think tweeted this out, where he was like owning a bunch of the up and coming CIS squads at like one of the old major qualifiers, and then NaVi owned them, and he was like, "What? Getting owned by CIS?" Like clowned on Twitter, and so there was a good point that I don't know who made, but it was like it's like if you beat up somebody's cousin, and then that first cousin comes in and you beat him up too, and then they get their professional MMA fighter to come in and destroy you, and you're like, you lost to that guy. It's like, well, losing to NaVi is not the same thing as losing to like Seaman Gaming, bro. Like, come on. So that was pretty good.
I want to ask about this winter bracket, right? So if they both lose their first matches, who's winning in the BO3, Godsend or Big?
Godsend,
tough, actually.
Probably Godsend.
I think Godsend.
Yeah, I would pick Godsend over Big.
Yeah,
they're fresh off of an ESL Conference qualification themselves, right? So
yeah, they just went through. They beat, who did they beat? They beat Sprout. I don't know. The wins they have feel like not that impressive to me though.
Yes.
Like they beat Sprout, LDLC, Endpoint, Wisla, Krakow. And they basically lost to nearly every team in recent memory that they're supposed to lose to. I think Big is going to take it. I think Big will win that. I'll be the one big truther.
The counterpoint here is that basically Godsend to me are like there's these teams that show up where they're perennial, always defeating teams below them and always losing to teams above them, right? They're always like exactly that way. They never upset, but they also never get upset on. And that feels like Godsend to me, although I'm sure they've been upset on before, but it just feels like they are always like the gatekeepers, right? If Big lose to Godsend, that means that officially we can say that Big is a tier 3 or 2.5 team or whatever. You know, like they've officially gone down because now they're worse than Godsend. That's all I'm saying.
I personally never rate Godsend that highly. I was surprised when they did anything at the major at all. I guess I don't know. When I watched them
go
play,
0-3. I guess they took a map off of the dead Astralis lineup at the time.
But we got some breaking news. You want to talk about it?
Oh, what is it? What's new?
Peacemaker isn't at Cole anymore.
Oh,
so I guess that means the Brazilian lineup isn't going there.
They're just okay. That's probably what it is.
Have we heard anything about Complexity?
That's
the only thing the only rumors I'd heard was like that Brazilian lineup going there, but now Cold isn't a part of it and Peacemaker just left.
Okay. Where do you see this? What? You see this on Twitter? It's on Twitter.
Yeah, it's on Twitter.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. I went on HLTV immediately, and the first thread was
I have to write the post.
Hawaii or fuck it, major. Okay. Yeah, we're kind of taking it. This is taking longer than I thought. So I want to simplify and still make interesting the IEM Winter discussion. Let's just go through this. Like everybody go through what they think is like a hot take about where this one is going. Well, how about first we'll do this. Who do we think is going to win the event, and then we'll get into this. So that'll like spur a little bit of some thought into it. Who do you guys think is winning IEM Winter?
Fnatic.
It's such a tough choice.
Fnatic. Okay.
I'll just say it. Whatever. I mean, I think they'll go. I think they'll actually make top 6. Which you had said top 7 at this event, Maui. I'll take it one step further. But if I'm gonna pick a dark horse, they're the ones that are recently on form against some teams that are in the similar bracket. They're not going to have been studied in the same way, right?
I put top 7 for like where I think their peak is on HLTV rankings in like 6 months.
So wait, what would you say? What would you say Fnatic place at this event then?
So I think actually the bracket looks really favorable for Fnatic in so much that they can. I mean, the thing is, they should just lose to Gambit, honestly. They should just lose to Gambit, and then they have to battle through the lower bracket. And I think that's the hardest part about this. But because it's a BO1 and they could upset Gambit there, I think that if they beat Gambit, they're pretty much a guaranteed top 6, actually. They have such a strong chance of making it. And then, but I don't think they're going to go too much farther than that. Like, I think Fnatic should be really happy if they make it to the playoffs through this bracket.
I think not only will I think they'll actually make it through the upper bracket. That's my bold prediction. I can't really say that they'll win, but I did want to say Fnatic just because smooth.
Okay.
Yeah.
I don't like any of these teams like to win.
Yeah.
But like one of them has to win.
Right, because there's no NaVi here, bro, so we can't say NaVi.
I'm almost saying like a Gambit resurgence seems.
I was gonna pick Gambit too. I was gonna pick Gambit.
Here's the thing, I think Heroic might even be better. But when it comes to like an important match, I don't think I favor Heroic to win it.
The thing about Heroic for me is that I think that I would want a Heroic Gambit finals for my sake, not for the viewer's sake. The best like viewer game would be like Liquid Astralis Grand Finals. That'd be amazing. Actually, you know what? That'd be kind of epic. So you know what? I would want that. But for the quality of Counter-Strike played, I think Heroic Gambit would be very high. And I think that Gambit are in a really good place where they almost match up with every team very well. And the only team that seems to like beat them is NaVi. And I think that coming off of the V4 festival, like they kind of showed that, you know what, we can hold our nerve on land. Like they had some game, I think, where they were getting it was getting pretty close and they were still able to pull through. I forgot what, but it was because it was happening the same time as the Academy League. So I kind of was watching with one eye. And so I'm gonna go with Gambit. I'm gonna say Gambit are gonna win this one. No. Who's your winner of this?
I'm gonna take Virtus Pro.
I love that pick, and I wish I made it myself, but I couldn't. I can't.
Well, they have an epic easy layup in the first round since Snappy's not with ENCE for the at least the first game. Tested positive for the CNOV.
Yeah.
Yeah. I also think that with limited practice, they honestly looked pretty good at the major. Really and considering they've now had basically 2.5 weeks to actually get some practice in.
Yeah, they got Flit.
I think that they actually could definitely just take I'm
still gonna say Gambit here. But I could see VP going on a run for sure.
I will actually predict Heroic to win because it's time.
Okay.
Navi's not.
You're not going to predict Fnatic?
I won't actually predict. I'll predict Fnatic top 4.
And then I like that we split this. We did because I would have actually pegged Heroic, Gambit, and VP to be my 3 favorite. Three.
Yeah. The reason I go for Heroic here over some of the CIS squads is just because they are more. This sounds incredibly crazy to say about Heroic. They are the most LAN proven and time tested roster of the teams that are at this event.
Sure.
Besides, I guess G2. We haven't even mentioned G2.
None of us picked. It's interesting. None of us picked G2.
I didn't even say they're in the top 3.
Wait, well, they're not playing with Nexa, so they're playing with Kenny.
They're playing with Kenny.
That's true. That's true.
Yeah. And that's
I mean,
why.
I still think they could do a lot of damage, though.
Yeah.
For sure.
I think once teams start anti-stratting Glaive a little bit, I don't think he's going to op as well at this event.
Do you think G2 will make playoffs with Kenny?
Oh, let me see the run.
Playoffs.
Ooh, so Tyloo.
They should be beating Tyloo.
Tyloo, then Liquid, then assuming they beat Liquid, they would have to go up against either Astralis or Vitality.
And they have 2 chances at that point. They have 2 chances at that point. I think I don't know if G2 even make playoffs. No, Nico's too good, dude. Nico is too good. Like, Nico is too good. He will will them through games that they shouldn't.
He'll be calling
win.
here too.
Oh, wait, okay. Yo, he can call. Nico's actually proven that he can call in a way that's like not the most tactically like incredible, but it's like good. It's good enough calling. So
I just want there to be like, okay, I just want there to be the round timers frozen. We're finally at the first rifle round of G2 versus Tyloo. They lost the pistol and the force buy and the eco. All right, round number 4. They get the op out, right? And then there's a technical pause as fisticuffs have broken out in the G2 camp because Kenny S has just looked over and saw Amanek with the AWP dropped by Nico instead of him. And he says, what the fuck? Sacre bleu! And then, you know, they get disqualified.
That's the
I assume they are gonna adjust the roles a bit so that Kenny is opping.
No, there's no way he opts. There's zero chance. No, I'm sure he will. The thing is, like, Nico's been the T side opper because G2 don't really have a T side opper, and then like Amanek has been the CT side opper. I mean, Kenny's been playing a little bit of Valorant, a little bit.
It'll be a bit tricky though because Nico's usually lurking, right? So.
I guess the T side op in my head is like mostly Mirage, but like.
Well, I'm just trying to figure out how they'll like play their T sides. Whether like Nico will be like with the pack and Amanek will just lurk for him, or like how they'll do it. I'm interested to see.
It will be an interesting sort of almost like pug version of G2, right? Yeah. So that'll be nice.
CT sides I think are pretty straightforward, but T sides could be a bit weird.
Mm. Okay. Okay. So we got our big 3 here. Any bold predictions? So I think Prodogo yours is Fnatic top 4. Anybody else have a bold one? Player breakout, possibly a team sneaking into the playoffs.
I think honestly, I like Prodogo's pick of Fnatic top 4.
Yeah, that's a good one.
I do.
That's a good one. Yeah.
I'm gonna say that. Vitality also make top 4.
So you're gonna put 5 teams in the top 4 there.
No. I have Fnatic, VP, Vitality, and Gambit.
Wow, Heroic in the top 4? Wow. What? Yo, you're going off your rocker note.
They did not impress me in Blast.
Yeah, but they're going back to pseudo online, pseudo land.
Yeah, it's studio. It's the studio for Heroic right now.
Their studio matches weren't super impressive either.
Okay. All right.
I mean,
they barely beat FaZe. That's true.
I got my bold prediction.
Okay.
Liquid is getting out of Group A.
Wow.
That is kind of bold.
That's actually.
But I'll take it too. Yeah.
But listen,
I'll second that.
all they have to do is beat OG in a BO1, which they can definitely do. And then they have to beat G2 without Nexa in a BO3, which I think they can also do. And then they're through.
Yeah. I'm gonna have a really bold one here.
Wouldn't they also then have to play?
No, that last match at the end is only for seeding to like go to the semis.
Oh right, yeah. Proceed to playoffs no matter who gets there. Yeah.
So
My bold pred is that, and this is me putting my analyst career on the line here, NIP will have above a 33% win rate on T side. That's it.
Madman. No way.
What was it at Blast?
I think like 30. No, okay, that can't be my bold pred. I actually don't even believe that.
Yeah, because I was going to say that's actually a pretty low percentage chance.
I actually don't even think that's going to happen. Mine is that I think Modern will be really good for ENCE. Is Modern, right? Yeah, I think Modern's gonna own. I think Modern's gonna end this event with a 1.16 rating. I'll say that. That's my bold pred.
Exactly.
Yeah,
I think it's the second decimal point.
Yeah, 1.16 rating for Modern. That's my bold pred for this. I think it's gonna be like, because Modern, I'll say this: anytime on FPX they left him alone to just do whatever he wanted to do, that dude just came up with 2 kills out of nowhere, a lot. Like, it was kind of dumb after a while watching it. It was like, okay, this is like clearly not even a style. This is just Modern killing people. So yeah, I think he does his best work when he's in a situation that he can just do whatever he wants, and that's exactly what is expected of him as a stand-in. He's probably one of the best stand-in riflers you could ask for that are on the open market.
I also think that I predicted an impossible bracket. Now that I'm actually like looking at the matchups and realizing that Gambit, Fnatic, and Heroic are all, or Gambit, Fnatic, and VP are all in the same group. So there's no actual way for them all to make top 4 with Vitality.
Oh yeah, it's actually impossible. It's actually impossible.
So
that's such a shame from seeding. Wow.
Yeah. So I'm still gonna take VP and then I would say probably Gambit, Vitality, and I'm gonna say Astralis surprised people here.
Wait, you said Gambit, VP?
Correct.
Which is from Group B, and then Group A would be
And then Group
Vitality,
A is
Astralis.
what? Vitality, Astralis?
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay. Wait, what?
If I'm gonna double dip on,
okay, that's for top 4. Yeah, got you.
If I'm gonna double dip on something, I'll just say that NIP bomb out 0 wins.
No way.
100%.
I don't. No, they're gonna face Mouz.
Yeah.
What do you mean? Esateg has had like 3 days to work on a Swedish on the way to Stockholm. So
yeah, that's gonna help. I mean,
gonna,
honestly, the best way to learn a language is by being thrust into the culture, and that's why he's going to Sweden at this event to learn Swedish. It makes perfect sense now. Okay. I think that wraps up our IEM Winter preview. This is again, this has been going on for a hella long time. So I'll just throw it to the question of the week. The question of the week. If you guys are first time tuning in or just don't know what this is about, the question of the week is usually just an end of discussion question that I come up with. That usually is just kind of more on the philosophical side or just kind of looser. There's no right answer. So the question of the week is CSGO better off with a dominant #1 team?
Yes.
Depends.
I think so because oh god.
I was gonna say at the moment I feel like it kind of sucks because I don't see any team that has a real shot at dethroning them, especially long term. But I think it's good for stories and stuff if there are other teams out there that are able to realistically compete with them. At times it felt like Astralis was just literally untouchable, and the teams from number 2 down were literally in a completely different tier, and it kind of feels that way with NaVi sometimes, especially because a lot of those teams you'll look at them and it feels like all of them have some weird roster situation going on. It's not like their real lineup or something in that way. When it's when it gets to be that point, I think it's very uninteresting. When it's maybe at some points 2015 Fnatic where you had TSM who was able to take maps off of them, you had NV who was still in the fray. I think that's pretty exciting, and I think it's good to have a clear #1 that people are trying to knock off at that point. But it's it can be too much. I think it's like with most things, you got to hit a certain sweet spot.
For me, there's 2 sides to it, or two points to it that make it exciting to have a dominant top team. Is one that it gives everybody not necessarily a villain, but a figure that everybody's trying to take down, and that's always an exciting storyline in any tournament. Yes, NaVi are coming in right now and dominating everything, but the fact is that someday someone will topple the Titan, and that's always going to be an exciting narrative to have. That was the same for Astralis. Secondly, I think when you have a team that is that dominant above all others at tournaments, you're going to force them to make changes if they're unable to beat you, and it forces everybody else to get better, whether it be by actually improving in their strategies and whatnot, or picking up players that are going to improve their roster. And that sort of keeps that cycle of new storylines, more exciting tournaments going. Without having a dominant team, stuff gets a little stale over time. Yeah, cool, this team wins this tournament this week and this team wins another tournament this week. Sure, it's cool that there's enough depth for that to happen, but it doesn't necessarily it's not as exciting as it would be as if you have one team that's actually playing very well and other teams are trying everything they possibly can to catch up.
Yeah, to jump off of that point note, I would say we sort of saw a test case for a parity era taken to its incredibly logical extreme, where we had this insane amount of tournaments, the oversaturation of the online era, plus every single team, every single event having a different winner, having all of these one-offs. For a week, Big is top 1. For a week, Heroic is top 1, and so on and so forth.
G2 were top 1 without even winning an event at one point. Well, and EG were also top 1 as well.
I forgot EG was top 1. Yeah. That's next level. So
Stan realized he hit the top and he didn't need to try after that.
Yeah.
That was his crowning achievement.
Went straight up. He's you know what, Daps, for a chance you can replace me. We'll see how that goes.
Yeah, because I've hit #1, Daps, and you'll never take that away from me.
So I think that we've already had the most extreme test case of no clear #1 favorite team. And it was not very enjoyable as a spectator or as an enthusiast, as somebody who's following all the games. It doesn't really give you a clear narrative to hang on to, which is something that I think, obviously you brought up, Note, is like, here's a sort of storyline that you can build up over the course of the event. And every time you have a match with the clear number one favorite, like NaVi in this case, people tune in, not just because they're fans of the team, but also because they might be haters of the team, or they're just really interested in being there when the actual, like the history happens, when the nuke streak is broken by Vitality, or when anybody comes in at any point to challenge them and actually defeat them in a 2-1 series. Maybe it could be Heroic. That's like a team a lot of people have touted as they don't always capitulate to NaVi the same way a lot of other teams do. That could be a big storyline. So especially as this sort of thing develops, you'll even start to rank teams based on how good they are against this one squad. And then you have all of the roster moves that come up because this team is so dominant that every other team needs to change in order to contest with them. That's why I think it's better off with a number one team, but I'll have a caveat there that says the reason why, one of the main reasons why it's really good is because it drives so much roster mania, so that we actually do eventually get another dominant number one team. Yes, and there's always that scrap, in a healthy ecosystem for CS. I think it looks like dominant number one team, maybe even establishing an era if they're true greats. And that happens for minimum 6 months. And then another team starts to upset them. All of the roster moves start to click into place, and you'll start to, get that number one team fall off. And then there's like this weird pit fight between all of the teams that were challenging up until that point for the next 3 months. And then the cycle sort of starts looping back in on itself, where you will get a natural successor out of that power vacuum. And then the roster mania saga starts all over again. So that's probably where CSGO looks like if it returns to LAN for a really long, lengthy amount of time.
Can't really, I'd say I can't really add too much to that, honestly. That was already pretty well said. I think a lot of the points have been brought up. I'd say, like, even though I think that CSGO is better when there's a dominant number one, I'll say, like, something that goes against, I guess, kind of against that is kind of the viewer fatigue of kind of knowing going into, like, just to be honest, like, I'll say that the Vitality series delivered against NaVi at Blast Fall Finals, but like kind of sucks some of the enjoyment out of it when it's like 1-4 favorites, when you look at those odds and stuff, and it's just like you kind of know what the result is probably going to be of something. So there's, for a team to be dominant, I think it's good in an overall picture sense, but I actually think kind of in the tournament to tournament basis, it's kind of boring. It's kind of just like, because we kind of know, like, the Blast World Finals 2 is just going to be, is anyone really going to challenge NaVi at those also? So kind of, like, in that sense, it's bad. Like, I think the one fun thing about the Blast World Finals, if I actually look at it, is that Gambit's playing in it. So it's they get another chance to take a crack at him. And probably Heroic, too, will get another chance to fight him. But other than that, like, I just don't really see anybody stepping up to the plate. And so in these, like, short-term, like, timelines, it's just like just kind of know what's up with this. But either way, I'm glad that NaVi are dominant, because, like you guys are saying, it's forcing so many other teams to make changes. I think that's gonna be it, though. Let's do shout outs and send this off. Mix, what's your shout out for the week?
oSee.
Sick. That's really sick. Okay. No, what's your shout out?
I have no direct shout out this week, so follow all of us on Twitter if you don't already.
Actually, I have to change it. I'm changing it to Floppy because he shouted me out after they qualified for EPL. So I got
Really? When did he shout you out?
Like when he was doing the interview after.
Oh, I didn't watch it. Sorry.
So I have to repay him for that. I didn't expect you to watch it, so
just the way that he's like, oh, sorry, I missed one of your crowding achievements. I don't know.
My bad.
The way that he said that was pretty good.
Yeah,
it was one of the best moments of my life. But
yeah, I missed that one. That's my bad. Pernogo, what's your shout out?
Man, I don't know. I'm kind of in notes boat where I don't have a direct shout out. I'll say, you know what? Shout out
first.
Okay, you go first. Give me time to think.
I have a handful of shout outs here because I have a couple things coming up. I don't actually have like tournaments going on right now, but I basically I'm doing like this Dexerto pod with DJ Esports and Thorin and Semler regularly, so that's another place to catch me. It's pretty awesome because they pay me, so that's always great that I get paid for a show. And also, I don't know if I'm supposed to talk about this, but you know what? No one told me I couldn't. I think I'm going to LA for a post show of IEM Winter, and that's gonna be like, Yeah, I'm not gonna say anything more than that, but I think I should be going to LA for like a single day of work, basically, and my travel days of pay. So I should be doing a post show for IEM Winter. So if you guys watch IEM Winter and you want to see some stuff,
Sorry, I'm probably not going to be able to catch that. So
don't worry, it'll be my crowning achievement at the time. But yeah, there should be like a cool little fun post show with some really big guests, and one of which that many people thought may have been gone from the Counter-Strike scene, and that's as much as I want to tease about it right here publicly. So that'll be kind of fun. So we'll see if that comes to fruition. Still talking about it with the people that are putting it on, but either way, watch IEM Winter. So when you watch that post game thing, you can catch me on that. Yep.
There you
Kodogo,
go.
what's yours?
I'll say shout out to the deaf audio guy at PGL, because now we've seen a really great tournament with no audio issues, and well, we just know his experience was valuable.
He's got a long way to go.
His whole life ahead of him.
He is the first ever deaf producer to produce a major. How dare you?
That's why I'm shouting him out, bro.
Yeah, we're not
big fan of his work
on It's Server Time. All right, that's gonna be it. Roll the Patron thing, and let's get out of here.
Bye.